stop running. Don't run. Blowing in the wind. You're wandering. Wondering if it will end. Seek God. Seek God. Seek God. Seek God. Move by the light. Don't hide your face. Hold still, my child. You find me safe. Seek God. Seek God. Seek God. Seek God. Seek God. I know you're scared, but there is no better place. Don't you know you're loved in the secret place? No more crying, no more searching, no more searching. What was lost is now found. Come home, come home, come home, come home. Look into the waters, see you. Look into the waters, see who you are. Come rest with me, you've been running too far. Running too far. Jingle
Peace, everyone. Peace. Shabbat shalom. Of course, gonna ask for the ones in the chat to make sure I can be seen and heard. Over the music is still playing in the background. Okay, so they heard me. All right, ones in the chat. Good thanks, Albert Derek. Good thanks, Shivia. So yeah, peace. Here we are at the end of another Shavua. I want to just start us off with an affirmation just to get us into the right headspace and just the right vibration, right? So we give thanks to the Father and Mother of all the worlds. We give thanks for bringing us together continuously and all of us making it back to our abode safely. We affirm that we will build and we will grow and we will improve the quality of our lives through exchange in this community. We always give thanks and praise. Shalom. Salah. Okay, so today I'll be leading the study session, and I wanted to build on something that Chief touches on a lot in terms of important quality that we all must have as students as aspiring Jignal, as men, as people, and that is the quality of listening, right? And of course, with listening, you're taking in information and you're deriving meaning from it. And in some cases, too, you're being obedient to what's being told to you, right? You can listen to an order. Um, Sometimes our listening isn't as good as we think it is, and it may not be until we go through um, a certain series of lessons that life will teach us for as long as we need to learn them, that we really begin to understand just what level we're at in terms of the quality of our listening. But I thought it was important to cover this topic and build on this topic with the community, and because when it comes to this information and when it comes to this culture, it's very important to be able to improve the quality of our listening, because that improves the level of assimilation when it comes to all of this information that we have coming in. And with the quality level going up, there's less need to revisit certain topics. There's less need to even speak about certain things as long, because that we don't need to go through all of the different examples that may come up. And they're fun. It's fun to explore different channels and different avenues and um, different scenarios and different vibrations. But sometimes it happens for too long, as we have been told and instructed, and that can pull away from the working aspect of it. You know, um, Even though we have sayings like you have two ears and one mouth, so you can listen twice and speak once. Sometimes we need to listen like 6 and 7 times before we get what the other person is talking about. And there's two types of listening that I wanted to touch on. Of course, you have your active listening and your passive listening, right? So passive listening is what a lot of us tend to do when we put on music, or sometimes we may even put on some of Chief's lessons and it's playing in the background, and we might be doing something else, having a conversation, doing the dishes, cleaning up, whatever it may be. And in doing so, we miss a lot of the granular details that help the formula that Chief has given us to actually work. Right. So it's like putting together an IKEA table, and you think you're done. It looks like the table in the picture, but you have 16 nuts, three screws, and a leg left over, and you don't know where they're supposed to go because you missed a couple of the steps, and you refuse to go back. It's like, well, it's finished. If it falls, it falls. If it falls apart, it falls apart. Um, but yeah, I wanted to hear from you all as well in terms of not just experiences with good listeners, but experiences that not experiences, but techniques, like good listening techniques that you may have observed. Right, I'm gonna go through a couple, and I got these from a research paper that was done on the effects of active listening in initial encounters. Right, so I'm just gonna, because I'm not gonna I'm not gonna attempt to um, repeat it verbatim, right? I could just write it down and read it out to you. So the first one is expressing interest in the listener's message, right? This is um, one of the main three techniques of active listening. And I'm saying techniques, but it's more like traits, right? These are some of the traits of active listening. So when you're expressing interest in the speaker's message, a lot of that interest is nonverbal, right? A lot of it is, whether it's your body language, you opening up your body to the person. You're not turning sideways. You're not continuously giving them the side of your head, and looking at other things. I'm listening. I'm listening. And then you're going back to this other thing over here. All of that discourages me from speaking to you. But it also, whatever it is that's over there or over here, it's pulling away from the quality of what it is that you're receiving. And you might find yourself asking the other person to repeat themselves, or you might just miss something, right? And then when you try to um, repeat it, the best you could do is paraphrase it, right? That's the best you can do. And that might not even be complete because you're missing some of the components. In order to paraphrase something, you got to understand it. It's not like I got bits and pieces, so I'm going to say basically in order to let you know that this isn't, the entirety of what the person said, but this is the important stuff, meaning this is what was important to me when I was listening. you know, so when it comes to that, you want to make sure that when you're learning, when you're taking in lessons, when you're taking in wisdom, whether it is from a speaker, someone in front of you, or even from a book, something you're reading or an audio book, you want to commit to what you're listening to, right? And feel free, the link should be in the chat. Feel free to jump in at any time, but you want to be open to what you're listening to. And if you're not open to it completely, or if you're not committed to what it is that you're taking in, you will miss things. And no amount of overestimation of your listening skills is going to compensate for that. You're going to have to listen again. Um, I think it's like a boon and a curse that we live in an age where everything can be recorded. um, you can go back and review as much as you want, but sometimes it's just like, I'll listen to it later, or I'll go back to that lesson, or I'll go back to that segment. It's not like in times where that wasn't as prevalent, and you can't always get a recording. So it's like, nah, I have to really, I got to really lock in, because if I miss it this time, I may not be able to get it again. So that level of value isn't there, because that level of scarcity um, isn't there. There's so much abundance of information that we feel entitled to it, so we can just go back to it anytime we want. And sometimes that makes us very lax in our studying. And I'm speaking, preaching to myself. I do that a lot. Sometimes I'll just put off reviewing things, which is another very important aspect of learning. You want to go back and review what you've heard. You know, Typically it classically is done through the note taking, or even meditation. But now you can go back and watch the entire conversation again. So we have that at our disposal, and sometimes we don't always make use of it, right? And partially in that vein of review, there's also paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is powerful, and Chief has touched on this a lot, but I just wanted to reiterate it and like bring it up in this space so that we could sort of build on what we can do moving forward in terms of really taking our scholarship and our studies to the next level. Because we may hear some things tonight spoken by anyone who joins in, or myself, and it may touch a nerve like, oh, I do that. You know, um, Maybe it's time to fix it. Today's mathematics is um, wisdom God, or being born to born, right? It's the opportunity to give birth to a new reality. So with the paraphrasing, you want to make sure that you have your key points, and the paraphrasing is good for note taking as well. So that still applies to the note taking. And with the paraphrasing, you want to be able to summarize what was said to you, retain the key points, and check to make sure that what you had heard was actually what was said. You know, what you hear is not always what's said, and what you say isn't always what's heard or understood. So this is not an it's not an insult to check to see if you understood something correctly. It may be an insult to ask someone to repeat themselves. You could ask your classmates what the teacher just said. You know, but that's another aspect of these study sessions too, or having other people who study the same thing that you study. You want to make sure that everyone is coming to the table, like number one, you're committed to listening to the message. You say peace, Abu Usman.
Peace, Master Elect.
Yeah, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Trying to get my camera together here.
Okay. Yeah, you got something you wanted to add on to the build?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're speaking on this because I just had to learn that there is a definite difference between active listening and passive listening. And as you and I discussed earlier, one of the things that you helped me out a lot with was I think I got too used to doing passive listening. And then at that point, trying to uh, retain information and then regurgitate it. When we went through our studies, some of the things that I struggled with was because I tried to absorb it under that particular type of listening, where I thought that I could be doing something else, a menial task, or something less important, and absorb it at the same time. But that didn't happen. But what I found out was real helpful, and again, thanks to uh, uh, our consultations and Chief's lessons. Um, I always, in order to actively listen, to force myself, I always have a pen and paper. Whether I take notes or not, I always have a pen and paper handy. And I try to take notes, even if I don't necessarily need them or I don't think I'll need them. But I have to change my environment physically in order to cue myself to listen actively. And that has helped me out a lot, absorbing information. So
Right.
yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, man, that is a key piece. It's also, I found it interesting. I read somewhere or I heard somewhere that having a phone present, um, like having your phone physically present in the room, can actually affect your listening quality. Intuitively, it made sense. I don't have any research or studies on it, but intuitively, it makes sense because I know I'm guilty of like constantly checking my phone. I don't have to. It didn't go off, and I remember what time it is from the last 5 seconds. When I checked it 5 seconds ago, I remember what time it was. So I don't really need to look at my phone. Even if it's on the table across the room, sometimes I unconsciously glance over at it. And you miss stuff because your brain can't focus on two things at the exact same time. It's like it can juggle, but it can't focus on two things at the same time. And we lose things that we don't realize we're losing when we're like our mind, our eyes are darting all over the place. But that's only like touching on the external, having a cluttered mind, like Chief was speaking about. Um, I think it was 2 Shabbats ago when he was talking about living a quiet life. He also touched on this in podcast number 100. I think it's called the New Wave, and he's speaking about you can't really reach freedom or attain freedom, or the change that freedom brings if your mind is always cluttered, or even if you're stressed or if your physical body is tense or under stress or ill, dis-ease. Yeah. Peace, Aguinaldo. How you doing, brother?
Shalom, shalom, Master Menelik. Shalom, Abu Usman. And shalom to everyone who has in the chat,
I think your mic
watching.
is off.
Oh,
No, I can hear him.
Oh, you can hear him? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear him.
you can't hear me, Abu Usman?
I guess
I
not.
wonder,
You ask it
I wonder
again.
if they can hear me in the chat.
I guess we could do the one thing again, one time for Akinak. Yeah, I see a one in the chat. So I don't know what's going on, Abu Usman. Can you hear
But
me?
They said they could hear me. Okay.
I don't know if Abu Usman
so
can hear either of us.
the chat can hear him.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't hear him though.
I I guess you could catch it on the I don't know because we're talking about listening, so this is kind of
Maybe,
interesting that this is happening.
maybe you should leave and come back and then see.
Yeah, that might help if you leave and come back. I think that might. Okay, there we go.
All right, yeah.
That's interesting that that type of problem would happen.
During the
Technically,
listening
we
session.
talk about listening.
Right. Yeah. So when you were speaking about listening, it was making me think of sometimes people have debates, and a lot of times when they're arguing a point, the other person will try to like characterize their point a different way than what they actually said. So like someone might say, uh, I think that we should have weapons to protect ourselves. And the other person might say, so you're saying if we didn't have weapons, then we couldn't protect ourselves? And it's like, nah, that's not what I said. But in order to catch things like that, you have to be an active listener. You have to actually listen to what the person is saying. Otherwise, you could get caught up in an argument and arguing a point that you didn't actually make. And
Mhm.
so I've seen that a lot just in like different political debates or debates about laws and things of that nature, where you know a lot of times the person who's the most active listener is actually the one who looks the best in the debate because they're able to catch every little thing, every single logical fallacy, and every single mischaracterization that the other person tries on them because they're actually listening to what the other person is saying, while the other person is listening to try to have like a gotcha moment, or they're trying to make them look a certain way. So it made me think of that, like a lot of times, even when we just have these sort of discussions with people who may be outside of our cultural purview, and we may say certain things about like, topics that maybe in the mainstream are not as palatable for some people, like whether that be polygyny or just patriarchy, things that people would rather not deal with, in mainstream society. It's like a lot of times you'll see like certain people that want to characterize what you say in a way where it's like, well, I didn't actually say that, but you have to be actually listening to what they're saying to be able to pick up on those things. Otherwise, we might, end up getting into a debate that we don't really need to be debating.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people, rather than actually listening, there's a phrase that says that a lot of people they're just waiting to speak rather than listening, and it indicates that they're not really paying attention. While you're talking, they're thinking about what they're trying to say or what the point that they're trying to prove in order to overshoot what you're trying to say or what your point is, because they don't consider your point at all. Um, and I think the first thing that needs to happen is getting someone to commit to listening first. That's to me, that's been one of the things that I've kind of adopted when I speak to someone, or if I'm getting into it, not necessarily a debate, but I'm trying to explain a point to somebody. I preface it with, okay, listen, can you listen to what I'm saying? All right, you got your ears on, kind of in a joking way, but I find that that kind of helps things out a lot when you preface people to listen, because and making a mistake and thinking that they'll automatically turn their ears on and hear your point. Um, I think we miss a lot of things that way.
Hmm. Yeah, being triggered is one of those things that gets people into that space sometimes because we often hear a lot of very stock arguments when it comes to certain conversations. Um, and we heard some of those when Sister Sequoia was reading off some of the common discrepancies that uh, females may have with polygyny, right? And she would just read them off. And a lot of them we've heard before. A lot of them like, well, what about jealousy? What about sharing one person? What about where they all gonna live? It's illegal. Polygyny is legal in the United States. Like you hear a lot of these um, arguments that are very stark. There's no critical thinking that goes into it. You just heard someone use that combination of words in that order in response to a particular stance, and you just repeat it. Like you might use the word God, and regardless of the context, someone's gonna pop up and be like, "Well, if God exists, why is there so much evil in the world?" Like you're just gonna hear that. It's
Yeah.
par for the course, right? I think that's a part of what you're speaking of. That affects what you're speaking about too, Abu Usman, where they listen to um, they listen for their turn or their chance to react. They don't really listen to respond to you or what you're saying. They're not open to the message, And determining whether or not the person is open to listening is key to saving your time and energy. Honestly, like we've heard Chief um, say that he does it, and we've seen Chief do it, where he's like, "All right, you got it." You're not open to the message I have for you. It doesn't really diminish the message, or the messenger, but the person who has an opportunity to receive the message, if they continuously block what's coming towards them, is only so long before you know you get swerved. All right, on to
Exactly.
the next.
Yeah. I kind of use that same strategy where, like, when she says, "All right, you got it," in certain relationships, for me, the that moment is when I say, "Okay, what I listen intently, and then I say, okay, what you want me to do?" And 50% of the time, you find out that the person's they're complaining really just to be heard, not necessarily because they have a legitimate argument, but they just don't like something. And it's not that they don't like it because there's a good reason not to like it. It might be helpful. It might be helpful for them. It might be helpful for the relationship, for the household, for the subject matter. You might be coming with facts and quoting where they can find out the information that you're speaking about, and they're arguing with you, and they're not quoting any facts at all, anything that's referable. I find out a lot. And then when you say, "Okay, what do you want me to do?" then there's nothing. Well, it's not about what I want you to do. What do you think you should do? You know, that's the cleverest response that I have, to say that, well, I don't have an answer. I'm just complaining. I don't have an answer, but I'm gonna try to turn it back on you, so you can try to figure out this thing. But um, yeah, that's my shutdown thing right there. What do you want me to do? And then if they give me a legitimate explanation or a solution, then I try to implement it. The back and forth thing with as long as people are listening to solve a problem, I think if that's the mind state of both parties, I think the listening is always effective, and I think that should be the goal of any back and forth or any disagreement. Is, okay, regardless of what we're discussing, regardless of what we're talking about, our goal is to get over this hump and get back to a normal flow. If that's the endemic mind frame of each person, I think listening will automatically be active, and I think it will be sincere. So I think it depends on the goal of both parties.
I think the goals are um, I think they're really important. I agree with you, and I'm appreciative of the word deliberate that's in here
Right.
too, because it cuts out a lot of confusion and nonsense when it comes to disagreement, you know. And from watching Chief deal with multiple people, he makes it very clear, like, we don't have to agree. You know, I'll aim to understand you. You know, I'll aim for understanding, but the understanding might be, oh, we just don't agree. All right, cool. But I know where you're coming from now, and you know where I'm coming from now, and we can at least respect each other on that level. But sometimes that level of understanding isn't the goal of both parties, and you can easily find yourself in a chaotic situation because of that. You know, one person is speaking and saying, "Okay, let me run you through how we got here, because clearly we disagree. I don't hate you. I don't have nothing against you, but this is how we got here." And on the other side, there's I've witnessed this today. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It's like, all right, sometimes you may have to walk away, but other times there's someone infringing on your boundaries. And when I saw the person stand their ground, it's like, nah, um, you're not gonna just bulldoze your way through this just by being loud, because there's a disagreement happening here. So, all right, let's go talk to the mediator. The mediator said, nah, it was this is off, you know, and they set things in balance in the as the mediator, as the person who's standing in between these two people. Because if those two try to come to an agreement, there's obviously no agreement. But if there's a mediator who both parties respect, then you can at least have some redirection towards, like Chief would say, what's right as opposed to who's right. I really appreciate the tribal aspect in that too. There's a verse where Moses has to do that for everyone, right? And Israel, and his father-in-law is like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, well, these people come to me with certain matter, and I hear them out, and I give a ruling." So you're gonna wear yourself out. Here's what you should do: have people appointed to hear out the more easy to solve cases. Let's say, the ones that aren't life threatening. You deal with the cases that they can't solve, and that way you can spread the work around, and you make sure that all of the rulings are fair. And having things like that preserve your energy are really critical too and vital. And I'm thinking about something else you said, Abu Usman, about people speaking to you because they want to vent. They don't necessarily want a solution. They just want to vent, and they walk it. What was it? Chief spoke about this in the segment he did on Life Force. They walk away happy and skipping because they feel a lot better after talking to you, and you're drained. You use the example of you have a cup, like if you have a cup that may be overflowing, and you have a saucer that's catching the excess, and you feed them from the excess, as opposed to allowing them to stick their straw in the middle of your cup um, of energy that's for you to do what you need to do, and you actually mitigate a lot of that stress. Because sometimes when you're listening and you're a good listener and an active listener, it is a scarce thing sometimes, and people do attempt to take advantage of that. And they may not even negotiate. It's like, listen, let me tell you about my day. But hello to you too. Shalom to you
Mhm.
too. And they just go off. And if you don't stop them, they'll keep going off. I've had certain situations where I wanted to test it. I left my phone in the other room. I cooked a meal, I ate it, and I came back. The person was still talking. They didn't realize I was gone.
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, you don't care. you know, you just want to think I'm on the other end of the line. But in terms of listening, with regards to learning, or listening with regards to studying, or being able to intake information in a quality way? Have any of you brothers learned a technique, even if you think it's unique to you, that has helped you to ensure that you get the best out of a study session or the best out of your reading? Because all of us study different things. Like, I haven't cracked any trust law books, and I'm pretty sure if I do, I'll be reading the same paragraph 6 or 7 times before I actually, get some traction.
Hey, I do the same thing still to this day. There's a lot of information. Sometimes I watch videos two, maybe three times, depending on how important it is to me. Um, I don't, and again, I think it's that, like you mentioned, there's a definite distinction between passive listening and active listening. And when you get used to one style for so long and you think it's effective, like as for me, I'm guilty of that, and thinking that passive listening, when you when you're able to absorb certain information, you might listen to one subject matter that you're really interested in, and you probably can absorb uh, a good deal of that in passive listening because you're so interested in it. Because you're really not passive, your active interest is making up for that lack of direct activity or your direct effort in trying to absorb the information. So it's kind of a compensation. But for me, things that I'm interested in, I can listen to and absorb a pretty good amount of information. But what happens is I'll listen to something that I'm not that interested in, that I'm trying to um, absorb or brush up on, or whatever the case may be. And I think that that same passive power is in that subject that not interested in, and I end up listening to it passively again while I'm doing something else. And then the video's done or the audio's done, and I don't I don't remember nothing, you know.
Right.
So I have to rewind it and listen again, and then that's when I go, you know what, I'm still not getting it. So uh, I'll either go to the book source of it because I can understand a lot more when I read something rather than when I listen to it, as I'm pretty sure most people can. But uh, even in reading, especially with something like law or something that has a terminology that's not every day, I have to read it two or three times. And a lot of times I'll take it paragraph by paragraph and then rewrite it to make sure I understand it. And that gets into a lot of deep study. Um, I think someone wrote, did someone write that when you ask someone, what do you want me to do? Um, it's not taking accountability. Did you see that flash across?
I'm not sure. I was thinking about going through and reading the chat, so I guess I could do that now.
Okay.
Um,
Because
okay.
what
So, oh,
that's it right there.
there it is.
So I don't know if that's in a direct reference to what I was saying. Well, when I say I asked, in the midst of a conversation, I'll say, okay, well, how do you want me to do this? Or what do you want me to do? That's not uh that's not the right off the bat response. That's after listening and giving, and maybe I should have been clearer about that. That's after listening and giving a solution, and most likely being denied two or three times or being rejected two or three times with that particular solution. And to me, that indicates that okay, whatever solution I come up with or whatever I suggest, this person's not interested. Let me find out if they're really interested in a solution at all, or if they're just trying to vent. And that's how I usually find out with that question, rather than me trying to pull straws and figure out what this person wants. Let you tell me what you want. And again, 90% of the time, that's when I find out they're not even interested in a solution. They're just venting, or sometimes people don't even really know what they're mad at. They're mad at something else, but um, one little thing that you do or one little thing that you say may just kind of be the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's not even a real issue. But that question to me really sorts out a lot of the confusion as to why or what the reason someone has a complaint is about, or if they have a difference with you in opinion. That question has to me successfully sorted out a lot of confusion. So that's why it works for me.
Okay, so just to make sure it's clear, it's not you giving the other person a solution or speaking to the other person and them responding with, well, what do you want me to do, as a form of deflection, but it's the person speaking to you, venting and complaining, and you ask them, what do you want me to do, in order to shift the complaining session into a more solution oriented experience.
Right. It's always after giving my suggestion as to what should be done, or even my explanation. If it's a misunderstanding. Okay, well, they think that I did this or I meant this. No, I didn't mean that. I apologize if that's the way you took it, but this is the way I meant it. This is what I was trying to do. This is what I was trying to accomplish. And again, a lot of times that's just not agreeable. It's like, no, I would, if you were trying to accomplish this, you would have done that. You know, then people start to uh, tell you how you should, solve problems or whatever, or what you were thinking. So they start trying to animate you. That's what I call it. To to you know get you to. Um, they try to impose their views on you as to what you meant when you did what you did, and
Mm.
even if that's not what you meant, to them in the larger scheme of how the world works, your actions equal this. That's just what it is. You get remarks like, "Well, on planet Earth, we do this." That's when you get those sarcastic remarks about stuff that you do, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, "Oh, okay, we're here now. I'm an alien. I don't know what I'm talking about." So it's when I uh, it's when I get those when we start to get into conversations where it gets a little sarcastic, or someone tries to project or impose what I'm trying to say, or what I'm meaning. Then it's like, okay, you know what? Let's just cut through all the bushes. What do you want? What is your solution to this problem?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I don't get to that soon enough. This is after 20, 30 minutes, and then I
Okay.
ask it, and then when they don't have a solution, I'm like, okay, I should have asked this 29 minutes ago. you know so
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's what I
Uh,
meant with that.
Wanted to add anything before I got to the comments? I can add.
Yeah, I was gonna say oftentimes I think people come into like conversations with their own agendas, and the agenda may not necessarily be lined up with your agenda or what you think the agenda is. So you may think, okay, this person is coming into the conversation in order to come to some sort of solution or some sort of uh, conclusion that will bring things back to a peaceful state or harmonious state. But oftentimes, what it is they just want to talk, or they just want to, you know, dump, like say trauma dumping. They just want to dump stuff on you because, like you said, a lot of times when people are listeners, or even if people are more quiet, they'll have people who like to talk more, and you'll be like that target. Like, okay, well, I know this person's gonna probably say something, or this person's not gonna listen, so I'm gonna, dump this on this person. Um, so when that happens, I think that we have to be like cognizant of number one, like this person's patterns, because like you might be like I know I'm thinking of somebody in specific who likes to do that, but it's like I think it's like what Chief said before about giving somebody space to do something. Like you kind of got to be wise sometimes, or it's like, okay, maybe I'll give you the space to do this time, but after that it's like, okay, I know you about to sit here and talk to me for 45 minutes, but that's not going to happen today. Like, I'm about to tell you exactly what you need to do. If you don't want to hear it from me, we ain't got to talk about nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we have to set boundaries for ourselves too, to be like, well, all right, I'll allow this today, but you come to me again with the same thing, we're either gonna come to a solution now, or we ain't nothing to talk about. Like, what are we talking about? You know, if you want to do that, you might have to go somewhere else, because I'm not gonna sit here and be that dumping ground for you today.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
Aki
exactly.
now made a good point. That's a really good point. I find out what I found out is if you're a good listener or a decent listener, people do tend to target you because they know that they're going to be heard, whether they have a legitimate issue or not. And for me, if you're a person if you seek peace, because I remember Chief said something that really resonated with me in one of his broadcasts. He said, if you're a soldier and you're always, you go out in the world and you gotta fight, and then you go home and you can't rest your head. You have someone in the household who's not giving you peace. Now you got to fight again. You never rest, and soldiers under those conditions become crazy, you know.
Mm.
And I think that motivates me and other people who want peace to be solution oriented. Just off the bat, I think there's some things just instinctively are going to mold you or going to guide you into the place of being solution oriented. So you're going to listen because you don't want to, and it's not because I'm not a good listener. And I know some other people who may not be good listeners, but they can hear you. And, we've had discussions about, how guys get together and have discussions about the things that they go through with their wives or their mothers or their sisters or their brothers, whoever, sons, children. And a lot of times we listen because we don't want to have to, we don't want to waste time and we don't want to waste energy. We don't want to waste peace. I'm gonna sit here and we're gonna get this thing together straight right now, and we're gonna come to a solution as quickly as we can. That's what drives me, not because I'm a good listener, just because, or because I'm a good person, whatever. I mean, of course, some of that is involved in it, and it varies person by person. But the main thing is, if you're just solution oriented and you seek peace, uh, especially as a man, that's just going to be your come from right off the bat. Okay, you got a problem? Okay, that's cool. Let's sit down. Let's work it out. Um, Shoot, give it to me, and then they give you the problem, and you try to come up with a solution. You just take it from there. But everything that you do is from a place of solution, and to get back to that, like Aki now said, get back to that place of peace, and not be trauma dumping all day. So I get that. That's a good point.
Yeah, I got a question based on that, but I'll go through the comments and willfully remember the question. But
No apologies needed. No apologies needed.
let me see if I can do this. Should I do this? I don't know if I can show it, but I'll start from Anu Radio. This is the first comment. Some good techniques is remaining present during a conversation. Yeah, that's a it is easier said than done for some people, depending on the amount of addiction and triggers that they have in their um, physical or mental system. Some people cannot stay present because you say one word and they are 5 years old again. Get 5 years old again, getting yelled at. They might snap back. Like, you ever seen someone having a nightmare, but sleep paralysis is not in effect? So they like they boxing and fighting in their dream. It's something like that. Like they're in their subconscious, but they're yelling at you. you know, like attempting to defend themselves from something that's not really attacking them, because it's not like a trauma dump, but it is a trauma response.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
And
I think
sometimes it's just plain old programming. It's not always something bad happened to you, but you have this memory of something bad that could potentially happen to you based on negative associations that you continuously feed yourself through media. So eventually you see a melanated man. Whether you think positively or negatively about them, sometimes it's very difficult not to have like the word association game and think about um, their relationship with their children. You know, is it good? Is it bad? You know, are they in their children's lives? Are they deadbeats? Who knows? You know, and depending on who you are and what flavor of seasoning you've been given, it's either going to be absent or abusive. You know, those are typically two that pop up. And dude might just be waiting for the bus, single and childless. But you're wondering, you know, if he has baby mothers, how many women he has, and it's always in a very illicit and non-righteous light. It often is. I won't say always, you know, but it often is portrayed that way. And you might have to fight that in yourself, you know. But imagine like not just having that trigger, but like 25 at the same time. It was very difficult to listen when that's happening. So being present is a very good way to ensure that your listening is quality and you're taking in quality information and you're getting you're deriving quality accurate meaning from what you're getting.
I think
Indeed.
a lot of people in like the younger generations, maybe like 13 to 18 and even younger, they struggle with listening a lot of times because their attention span really only needs to be 5 seconds these days. So it's like every 5 seconds their stimulus changes. So it's like when you try to sit there and just have a conversation, it's like all this movement and all this thinking and go looking. Oh, I gotta look at my phone. I gotta look up. It's like, hold on, relax.
Right.
You know, for a second. And a lot of times it's a struggle for them because it's like I don't have to unless I'm in school and you know I can't necessarily access some of these things that I would normally access. I don't have to do that. Like my whole day is just constant stimulation. Every 5 seconds is something new, something different. And I think that you know, I've seen it just with my own siblings, younger siblings, and just kids just out and about, where it's like the focus is like deteriorating just because they have so much different stimulus just every 5 seconds is something new, something different. You know, so it's very hard for them to stay present in the moment um, and to actually actively listen to someone. I actually put one of my little sisters, I told her, I said, listen, because she was having that issue where it was like we were just talking on the phone, like on FaceTime, and she was like moving all of. I'm like, hold on, like just look at me for a second. Like stay still. And I was like, when's
Look
the
at
last time? Yeah, look at me. I was like, when's the last time you meditated? She was like, and she started laughing because you know I'd be getting on her about that. I was like, all right, this is what you're gonna do tomorrow. I just want you to put your phone like somewhere else, like outside your room, and just meditate. Put the timer on for like 30 minutes and just sit there, close your eyes, focus on your breath. And every time a thought comes by, just acknowledge it. Don't do anything else. That's all you got to do. The first 5 minutes, you're gonna be like, let me get on my phone, let me go downstairs, let me go make some. Oh, what am I gonna eat tomorrow? Like you're gonna think all these things. Get past that first 5 minutes, and then you'll start to get into the flow. Watch. And she texted me like a few days later and she was like, you were so right about that first 5 minutes. Like I just wanted to get up and just, you know, start doing stuff. But after that, it was just about like coming back to my breath. It was like I kept noticing my thoughts coming by. And I was like, good. I was like, you can make that a part of your regular routine, you know, and it would be helpful for you because you just got so much going on in your head where it's like you can't just get to a centered place, you know. So yeah, I think that it brings me back to that quiet life segment. You know, I think that a meditation is very important for that, you know, because there are moments like for me, I've noticed in meditation where it's like my goal isn't necessarily to clear all the thoughts out of my head, but there will be periods of time where it's like, whoa, there's nothing. And then once I notice there's nothing, it's like now everything comes back up. But yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. Meditation is uh, for me, it's a, it's a work in progress. some days, and this surprised me because when I first learned it, and I think Brother Jason Diop mentioned it earlier about how he does the meditations in order to kind of cue the listening, that listening mind. I thought I had it locked in when I could meditate for 20 minutes and just keep my mind quiet. Yeah, that was it right there. Uh, and that's a meditation that I practice as well. That's how I remembered him speaking on that. Um, but you know what tripped me up was like for a month, I'm good. I'm good money. You know, maybe two or three thoughts creep in, kick them out, then I'm smooth sailing. And then some months, what I found out was your meditations depend heavily upon what you're going through outside of the meditation, or rather, it's the success of your meditation depends heavily upon what you're going through in your daily life. Because when things were rough, even after a month of good, solid meditating, successful, what I would call, what I would deem successful meditating, I couldn't meditate for 5 minutes. You know, I would close my eyes and try to calm everything, focus on my breath. And I couldn't do it for 5 minutes. And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you were supposed to get better at this as time went on, as you practiced. And then if I skipped, if life just got too busy for me and I skipped meditating for say 2 3 weeks, right? Then I would come back to it and I would basically have to start all over again. And have you experienced that, Akina?
Yeah, I saw a quote. I forgot who said it, but it was like this meditation guru, so to speak. But he said that meditation was like trying to nurse like a small flower. And it's like you have to keep coming back to it. Like if you give it too much time off, then what can happen is you can get to a point where, like you said, you might have to start over, or you might have to go to a place where it's not really flowing like it was before. So I think a big
Right.
part, of meditation is making sure that it's consistent over time, almost like um like a sport. Like it's like you don't want to
Yeah.
take too much time off because when you get back in the gym, you're gonna be rusty, whatever it is. I feel like it's like that. It has
Yeah.
been for me, I'll say. Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was a surprise to me. Like I said, I thought once I got it, it wouldn't. At least I can understand, of course, naturally if you don't do something for a while. But a couple of weeks, I wouldn't think that uh, I would have that much of a difficult time getting back into it. And of course, I did. But that was a serious learning experience, and I think it just goes to demonstrate just how much of an effort it takes to quiet your mind, just how much I guess accumulative uh, chatter you develop by going through your life and experiencing different things and experiencing people's different energies. I think all that stuff. I think it compounds like interest, uh, you know, in your head, and we don't realize it until we try to do something like kick that chatter out of your head and quiet your mind and listen to the tune of of who you are, your being. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's a powerful thing to adopt. And as you were saying, I got a 11-year-old nephew. I have him meditate as well, and it's been a while. And we barely reached the 10-minute mark, So that being wiggling, and I had to stop all that. Okay, no wiggling the toes. We would get to 5 minutes, and then the toes would start wiggling. So I had to get the toes to stop wiggling, and
Yeah.
then I had to get the little hums to stop after 6 minutes. So yeah, it's a process. But in my one of the things that again that I learned in my consultation or my studies with Master Menulek, there are different types of meditations, and I kind of use that quiet mind as a cover all for everything. But there are some meditations that you need um, to focus. You actually focus on a problem rather than focusing on keeping everything out. You bring one problem in, and then you focus on that. And I think Master Menulek can speak to that because he explained that to me very thoroughly.
I don't remember.
Shabbat shalom, brothers.
You broke it down to me, brother. You broke it down to me. You explained it to me, but it's okay.
Shalom, shalom,
Just
Apostle
flow
Ken.
it. Peace, sister. You know.
Shabbat shalom. I just wanted to touch on the remaining present because something that Akinile brought up kind of jogged it because I was working with a lot of youth
You
in
guys hear it?
Strong.
I can't hear it.
You can't hear her.
Uh-oh.
I
Uh,
Yeah,
hear.
she's real quiet, but
I
I
am.
can hear her.
okay.
Is that better?
That's
Yeah,
better.
Okay. Yeah, I was working with a lot of youth this strong, and I also was reading a study about how educators are having a really tough time with generations paying attention because of screen time. And whenever we speak about listening, the first thing that came to mind was purpose and how we have to be present to be in our purpose, as we learned in Anu. So I was thinking how much screen time promotes these youth not being in their purpose, and how it's like a direct attack on youth remaining purposeless, so that it can be filled with whatever purpose the culture determines. So I just wanted to add that in.
yeah. I think that's key because that actually reminds me of the family member I was speaking about because she's actually someone who's she's kind of struggling to figure out what that thing is with that certain things that she wants to do just in life period. And I think a big part of that is the fact that she does not spend enough time like just in the present moment. And that's something that I try to impress upon all of my younger siblings. I have a lot of younger siblings, a lot, but it's something I try to impress upon all of them because all of them, man, they love those phones, they love those tablets, but they don't spend enough time with themselves. And it's like, okay, you're constantly consuming and intaking the lives of other people in this manufactured content, which a lot of I think is programming, obviously, but I think it is deeper than just the content creator. Like there's some agendas that's obviously being pushed through some of these channels to younger people, and they're constantly just intaking these things where they haven't actually given themselves a chance to really discover what it is beyond those things that they're intaking. Like what is there just within me, or what is there that I can tap into just by myself, with myself, where I'm not actually looking for something to consume or looking for someone to tell me to do this or someone to tell me to do that. What sorts of conclusions and like people say downloads, what things will come to me as I'm just with myself. And I don't think that a lot of youth give themselves enough time to do those things. Like it's obviously not promoted to them um in any way. So I try to take it upon myself to be like, hey, did you meditate? When's the last time you meditated? And they're like, no, yeah, I'm gonna always do that. And then I'm gonna get the feedback, and then I'm gonna use that feedback to even bully them more. Like with the other ones, I'm like, she did it, you ain't
Mhm.
do it yet. Yeah.
It's so valuable that she has that order for me because even like it's promoted but it's twisted because it's the social media is making the children like all about themselves so that when they're in a conversation, it's like even with this online working from home, it's like you see people looking at themselves. they're like, instead of listening to what you're saying, they're looking at themselves. So it's like everything's about themselves but no one is about community, so we don't find our purpose. We're just too busy in ourselves. It's like that solipsistic, um, and I may have said that wrong. I may have said that wrong, but
You good?
yeah, the solipsistic, just this of self-absorption. I think it's so much self-absorption that it's the purpose is being twisted and it's being taken away from community. You can't find your purpose without community.
Mhm. So there's more self-absorption than
Yeah,
self-exploration.
Yeah, or self discovery. Like you're not really finding out anything. It's just I think a lot of, well, actually, I would say there's a lot of exploration, but it's just exploration of like feelings, likes, dislikes, things of that nature. But it's like, what what is it that's within you that goes beyond those things? Like, have you tapped into anything that is beyond? It's like when we talk about the truth being beyond our perceptual, five sense reality. Like, have you went to that place? Like, have you tapped into anything that takes you beyond what you can see, touch, hear, smell, taste? I don't think that anyone, is really doing that youth
Yeah,
wise on a
yeah,
wide range, wide level.
yeah, for sure. Um, Logan Scott says children need to learn vocabulary to be able to understand the inner happenings. And it's interesting to see how I'm beginning to catch myself thinking and categorize the spin my mind was going on. Yeah, there's I think you said it, Akina. Um, what comes to mind is there's so much um, there's so much being ingested, but a lot of it is like junk food. So we talk about being able to assimilate quality information so that we could not just regurgitate it, but actually reproduce the results of the person who's applied that formula before us. You know, who we've gotten that information from. But a lot of the internal reference points that youth do have are what they took in from the external world.
Right.
So I'll think about the way I look based on beauty standards, the prevailing beauty standards. Or I'll think about the way I speak based on what um, what the cool slang is now, or I'll think about what I want to be based on what's going to pay me the most. So everything I think about, it's already been informed by the outside external world, and I'm constantly intaking answers to questions I haven't even given myself a chance to ask yet. So when I do get to ask them, that answer's sitting right there,
It's already
on
there.
top of the one that's the truth.
Mm. Dr. Amos Wilson spoke about the people who most depend, whose their very power, their very domination is based on communalism, be it uh, local or global. So you have Council on Foreign Relations, NAFTA, the European League. These are all basically global communities, and then it trickles down into other agencies, other governmental agencies, intergovernmental agencies, and they all work together. You know, the perfect example is the database on just with people's registration of their properties. Say, for instance, car registration, or with the law, that would be the perfect example. If you have a warrant in Illinois, you can't move anywhere in the U.S. and that warrant still not be attached to you. So that's a communal system that the people they dominate and they control by. But those are the very people who teach everyone else to be individuals. That they pervade everything that has to do with individualism, and they let that run rampant in the media. And that in conjunction with another thing that was very interesting that I'm still trying to. I know why he said it, but I'm still trying to get to the very root of exactly what he meant, which was not Bill Gates, the other guy who did the Mac. His name escapes me right now. The guy who invented
Jobs.
Apple,
Jobs.
Steve Jobs. He said that he didn't let his children engage in technology all that much. And this is a man who basically founded his uh his fortune on technology, the creation of technologies. So my thing is, if he said that, then what is technology actually doing that they're not telling us? I know there's been studies that show that it does actually, they say exacerbate, but I think that you could probably use the word foster or create ADHD. Um, and that's just one of the things that I've heard. I don't have any concrete studies on that, but between those two, between like you two were speaking about the individualism and not being able to pay attention, not being able to be present, I think it's well, I know because I'm involved in that struggle. I think it's going to be a pretty good fight to keep your children uh, locked in on finding out who they are as their own personal being, and to tap into that and to come out of that with something that they could benefit themselves and the world with in their community. That's going to be and it's probably already the one of the most intense struggles that people are dealing with today. So
Yeah, I'm going to continue with the chat just to get caught up, and then there's actually another aspect of active listening that I want to get into. And Chief, you had also put some stuff in the chat too, so I'm going to get to that as well. So after on the radio said that being present is a good technique, Chief had said that basically is the signaling of poor listening due to importance, impatience, and ego. So if someone is halfway listening and then they try to sum up what you're saying with the term basically. So basically, all you saying is this. Right? You're super egoic because you're assuming that you can glean what I'm saying to you or what my overall point is from like I'm giving you a definition so that you can walk with me towards the point. And from the definition alone, you assume you know what I'm saying. You might get one step, but we on step 1 of 15, and I gotta walk you through this because I already know um, I have to respect wherever you're coming from. Not even to say that you're less intelligent than me, but I want to make sure that I'm clear with what I'm giving you and you have the opportunity to listen to the whole thing because I respect you as an intelligent person who can actually listen for more than 5 minutes and not lose focus. And you're proving me wrong, man. I believe in you. But so basically, all you saying is this. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm late for an appointment. I gotta go. Our Jason says, "Oh, greetings, George Samuels." Our Jason says, "Meditating to quiet the mind is something I practice on the daily to allow the mucky water to clear. Then I can listen clearer." And of course, that's what Abu Usman had pointed out. Safta Harvard says, "Ken, I prefer to listen first, and if I can re-listen, then I will take notes." I think Safta Harvard was speaking about some of the segments that Chief does. I take notes both times, and I do that to remind myself of how much I missed the first time. uh, just to remind myself not to overestimate my ability to listen because I do that, but that leads to skimming in the future. I got to try to keep myself humble so I don't do that. TPS says the phone emits low-level radiation and electromagnetic waves. This alone would disrespect personal reception. I think that's in reference to attempting to listen to someone while your phone is physically in the room. Um, House of Yuya says that's what I see with Candace Owens. Very good listening and responding, not reacting emotionally. She also says, I learned that there is no point in speaking to someone who only listens to respond. Yeah,
yeah,
very true. She also says, when people say, oh, we touched on that one, we shall not return. Brother Logan Scott says, as Abba Usman mentioned, I use the pen and pad method because I tend to feel overwhelmed when a lot of info is being given to me. So making notes help me to hone in on points to further break down. And he also says, I remember on the ENT segments, Chief had a segment on questions and how important it is to formulate your questions in a concise way, especially when you're seeking understanding from above. Yeah, that's a big one. I remember that being included in a segment on effective communication. I'm not sure if it's that one or if there was an actual segment titled questions. But I remember looking for that segment on questions and I found effective communication. So you know where that is, Brother Logan, help a brother out. Hook me up. Um, Chief US says the concepts of cognitive overload, active memory, and latent memory deal with our attentive listening. So these are some other concepts we can delve into when dealing with active listening as well. I feel like we touched on cognitive overload in terms of taking in too much information. I'm not. I won't try to speculate on exactly what that means. I'm just looking at the two words and trying to trying to jimmy a definition. Let me not do that. Leave that alone. Brother
I
Logan
think we
said,
could.
"Oh, go ahead, Abu Smith."
I think, and I'm just taking a shot in the dark here. I think we could say cognitive overload. At least that part is if someone doesn't understand what you're saying, or if you kind of maybe speaking a little bit above them. Maybe that's what that means.
I don't know. I don't do maybes. I do my best not to guess, so I left it alone.
Right. Makes sense.
Brother Logan says, I find repetition helps information stick. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Also, writing points out and then speaking to someone and explaining it back to them, like I'm teaching them, also helps the information stick. Yeah, that those are all good ways to help information to stick. Sometimes I record myself speaking about it. Like I use the voice recorder app, and I just play back how stupid I sound, trying to not stupid, but I play back my thought process and trying to work through what it is that I'm hearing, because some of the ideas that I do have, like I gotta shoot them down and then I build them up and then I shoot them down again. It's like Chief had used an analogy before. It's like a metaphor where you're turning over the soil of your mind, and you're thinking it and rethinking it, you're thinking it and rethinking it, and of course we have the luxury of going back to the original source and tapping into that as well. But yeah, writing things down helps a lot. Um, Repeating things helps a lot in terms of information that you need to memorize. Like immediately, I think of supreme mathematics, where you do it's good to repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. You get the mathematics down, and then you can be kind of more creative with it. Peace, Akizak.
Hello.
Peace.
Hello,
Peace.
shalom.
Oh,
Yeah, you got the bling on today. What's going on?
oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about it.
Come on, shining.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, man. You wanted to jump in? Oh,
I mean, you in the flow of reading the comments, so I can.
all right.
I just didn't want to be the one to sit back and keep taking and not ever give anything or show up to orientations and with my pen and my pad and keep taking and not jump on a live and actually give something back. So yeah, I just wanted to jump on here.
That's very wise of you, brother.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate the
He wanted,
reciprocity.
Absolutely.
he wanted to jump on with the Chuck jewelry on.
The Did someone freeze? Oh, all right, I'll continue. House of Yuya. When it comes to actively listening for women, I do think about one's ability to receive receptivity. Are those receptors damaged in some way? Okay, we going back to um, what some people deal with in terms of taking in external information. We're touching back on that because what am I receptive to? It's not like I lose my ability to receive my favorite shows or my
Mm.
favorite TikTok reels or money, you know, but I do that. I am less receptive to instruction or accountability or whatever is programmed into me or out of me based on what I take in. You know, I do think that has something to do with it. Peace, Saki Rahim.
Peace. Peace, everybody.
Yeah,
Shalom.
yeah, I think that has something to do with it. But I think do any of you brothers want to touch on that before we move on?
I was gonna say that's an interesting concept where it made me like it was like like you hear something and then you hear something else and like it just makes sense all of a sudden. Like when you said, well, you're still receptive to like your favorite TV shows. It's like, yeah, like you still have the ability to receive. It's just what do you have the ability to receive? And then what's blocking your ability to receive these other things? And like I think it goes back to what you said about triggers and how different people may have had different experiences and maybe even different ideas programmed into them because of said experiences, where now they're it's like it blocks their ability to receive information from certain spaces. So they may come onto a live like this, see four melanated men, five melanated men speaking on a live, and everybody's speaking with strength and power, and nobody's like twinkle toes up here, and it's like, nah, I can't listen to that. That ain't. It's like automatically there's a shutdown because that may be to them, that may be a threat. This may be a threat to me, or maybe this is something that I just don't like, or maybe it's something that I hate. So there's no reset, there's no getting through. There's no way that there's someone getting through to a person like that because of what maybe they've I don't even want to just say experienced, but it could be a mixture of like experiences and also programming. Like if this happens to you, then you should look at the situation like this. It's like the answer is already there within them on how to deal with the situation like this or how to speak to someone like this. Or if somebody says this to me, like, yeah, you have to be accountable for what you did, my automatic response is to not be accountable. Like it's just there already, you know? So yeah.
Um, to touch on what you just finished off with, that's what I was thinking. Um, when that was posed is like you have to be accountable for when you're not listening. Like if someone calls you out and says like you're not listening right now, you have to be accountable for that because um you may be so used to like just letting things fly over your head or just saying okay, yeah, I hear you, and then going about your day and then either doing things however you want to do it or whatever you however you choose to do it, especially when you're in a space where it's orientated around okay, how are we going to grow, how are we going to get better, and how are we going to develop ourselves, and you have an older brother, an older sister, or just someone elder than you telling you like you're not listening or you're not really absorbing what you could be absorbing right now, and like you said, like it's just nature for us in this society to see a bunch of melanated men and be like, yeah, I'm not listening, right? And you see that all over the place. Like I see that sometimes on the job site where someone will be told something, and based on the color of their skin, they'll say, okay, yeah, I'm listening to you, right? When it's like, okay, what's that chip? Like that chip in the back of your head that's telling you, yeah, I shouldn't be listening right now. Or when we hear certain type of ancient history about our people, we say, nah, that's spookism. Instead of sitting, okay, let me listen to this and see it for myself, right? Or we hear, okay, we hear the Bible, And Chief may say, okay, study it for yourself, go into it for yourself. And someone would say, Bible? Nah, I'm gonna let that do its own thing instead of sitting back and saying, okay, let me listen um and take this in for myself. And one thing that I found that works for me, because I do get that cognitive overload where I'll hear a lot of things and then my mind would just start racing and then I'll stop listening. So for me is like recording. Instead of taking notes, because this notes will distract me too as well, just recording whatever is being said so that I can go back and then review in a later moment. But just being 100% present, which is actually very hard. I know we're speaking about it, but being 100% present to actually listen and absorb what's being said to you, especially when it's given to you at a rate that Chief gives it, where Chief is not just giving you one small thing, he's giving you gem after gem after gem after gem. You actually have to be able to record that and go over it on a later basis, kind of like Bestman like said, like shooting those ideas down. And I think allowing yourself to have ideas being shot down um, allows you to listen and think better, right? Because if you're not brainwashing yourself and cleansing your mind of those negative or things that are holding you back, that chip, rewiring that chip so it could be so it could be something that's actually productive and beneficial and that leads you to the Most High instead of leading you into Babylon, right? That's what kind of made me think of when you guys were just speaking on that.
I think a lot of it too has to deal with what Okinawa was saying is that programming, and now I think that the onus now becomes on the person who is communicating a concept or an idea of, are you listening to where the person that you're trying to communicate to, where they're at, and are you still trying to impose your idea and your concept onto them? Or are you actively listening to the feedback that they're giving you and saying, this is where I'm at in my walk? So now, as opposed to becoming more frustrated as to why is this person not listening? Why is this person not understanding? Now you have more compassion as you start to relate to somebody and saying, you know what, either I can find a different way to try to put this to you, or you know what, you keep going and exploring that concept. There was a guy that called in on an old Enlightenment and Transformation, and he was talking about a conscious seat. I never forget this. And he was trying to tell Chief, it's like, nah, man, it's that goddamn conscious seat. And Chief was breaking it down. It was like, you know what? That's not, I'm poke holes in this. But he still was hell bent on, you know what? No, it's a conscious seat. This is what it is. And it wasn't like, your concept, you just not understanding, you not getting it. You know what? You go explore that then, because I'm gonna move on from that now. But you go explore that and you let us know what you find, with that. And again, it's being respectful of other people's journey, being respectful of other people's, walk. And it makes me think of that old thing, to whom much is given, much is required. So just because you feel like you might be knowledgeable and you might know a lot of things, there's a lot required of you now to say, are you condescending? Or you feel like you're arrogant now and you're better than this person, so now therefore this is how I'm going to start to speak? Or are you going to speak again with that compassion that says, I understand because I once was there. I once was asking certain questions like this, or sometimes my responses was like this. And even if you go further into it, it's, Chief has always said that when he presents things, it's not something that I just looked at, it's not something that he looked at last night. This is something that has been, I'm working it and reworking it until I present this. Even with his own story of saying that, before people even knew that I can speak, I was up in the room and I was looking at I keep saying that. It wasn't me, it was Chief.
You so used to quoting them.
Yeah, so, but he was saying, going from the Bhagavad Gita to the Bible to the Quran, and then just, this was actually in episode 16 or 17, one of those two. But just saying that, I'm a point and then read a line and then I'm gonna flow off of it for 5 minutes, or I'm gonna flow off of it for 10 minutes, just flowing off of one line of seeing how well I understand something, which now how well do you understand it then starts to correlate to how well you start to understand feedback as far as where somebody else is at. So then it makes me think of that old thing which Aki Rahim can attest to is you cut twice, I measure twice, cut once. So before I start to just throw out responses or before I just start to say something, I'm gonna make sure that I listen. Or what's that thing said? That's why you got two ears and one mouth, so you listen twice as much as you speak. I'm going to make sure I understand. And I think that even goes back, as my last point, and then I'm going to relinquish the mic. It goes back to Aki now when he was saying earlier, though, well, some people like, so what you're saying is, I mean, some people are giving you active feedback. So this is what I'm hearing. Is that what you're saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, cool. I would just want to make sure because you can go along a conversation and not be on the same path just to make sure that you're pushing the conversation along and miss the total point of what somebody was trying to say. So it's like, is this what you're saying? This is what I'm hearing. Nah, that's not what I'm saying. And then what some people try to do is move the goalposts because they hear what they said was stupid. So, oh no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this. No, that is what you just said. But now I'm gonna just move it over here, and I'm gonna keep moving it, and we're gonna do this dance. So, yeah, I just think it's a matter of though a lot of that of being a great communicator and a great listener is on the person who wherever you're at and you're walking your journey and understanding where other people are at as well.
All right, give thanks. Peace, Aki Isaiah. Peace, Salvation.
Peace, peace.
Shalom.
So
Yeah, as I'm listening to this segment, the thought been crossing my mind that when somebody's quick to speak or they're thinking while you're speaking to them, it's like that person is stuck. And it took me a while personally to notice like when somebody's doing that while you're talking, like that's the issue they're dealing with, and that person is stuck. They think they got it figured out, and really what they're doing in that moment is they may be trying to cut you short of what you're saying and impose their own thoughts, but they're also trying to hype themselves up and believe in what they're saying because deep down I found a lot of people who do that don't have a lot of faith in what they're saying. So they're not only trying to convince you, but they're trying to convince themselves. And if you're talking against that, it's like there's something in them where it's like, whoa, 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 nah, nah, we doing it this way. So I find that interesting. Just well, it could be annoying too, but just the deep psychology behind a person listening and the layers of listening because I've I've talked to people and have people I call surface level listening, but the surface level listen and then like has somebody ever done that to you and tried to repeat back to you what you just said, but you're like that's not what I just said. Like so it's it took me a while to notice like really listening is a test to see how present you are in the moment. And it was hard for me because for a long time I didn't know how to be present in the moment. I just thought like, oh, okay, let me throw together the key points of what he said and summarize it. And so basically, you're saying, and that's not getting it. So yeah,
I think one thing that I always think of when I think about being in the moment and just listening, something that Akizak does to me all the time, and it's that people fight hard for their situations, right? So you could either fight hard to be in the moment, or you could fight hard to not want to listen. You could fight hard to just not want to be involved, and it's really on you,
yeah,
right? 'Cause a lot of time people um I've had people say like they'll be like, "Oh, like you're not giving me time to think. You're not giving me time to think about what you just said." And I was like, "How could I take time away from you for you to think? That doesn't even make any sense." Right? It's the same way like if you're talking, I got to take time and then think. right? So it's like you have to put these things into position for yourself. This is not something that you can blame someone for. And I think I also like what Akizak said when it's like you have to, you as the person who's communicating, also have to take time and to see where that person's coming from,
Yeah.
right? See if they're able to even if you're speaking over their head, because a lot of times I feel like sometimes when we get into information, because we learn something, we feel like we should just start talking over people's heads and trying to communicate with them and see, okay, can this person even understand what I'm saying? And I think it says that in the 14 keys, I think it is, where Chief talks about some scientists in a room, quantum scientists in a room speaking, and if you bring someone off the street to understand what they're speaking about, the person won't understand, right? So you, as a person who's speaking to that person, have to try your best to kind of bring it to that level, and then you, as a person who's listening, also have to try your best to understand what's being said. And if you don't, like, say that. But like Aki Isaiah said, like, don't just try to be listening. Like, yeah, I get it,
Right.
and you really don't. Like, if you don't get it, just say that. And I think she says all the time, like, if you don't know, just say I don't know. Right? Know what you're not penalized because you don't know something. Right? The only time you're penalized is if you act like you don't know, but you don't know, but you act like you do know. Right? So I think that's what made me think of when you were just saying that, Aki Isaiah.
That example you gave is in the Anu way.
Our new way, my fault.
Yeah, man. So
I
I'm
think
gonna
Aki
read the
Jason
message.
wanted to say something. I think he
Oh,
wanted to.
your mic
Uh,
is still
We
nah.
can't
We
hear
still
you.
can't hear your mic. Still can't hear. Nah, I don't know why StreamYard does you so dirty. I don't know. Every time you join on, it's the same thing.
No.
And I already saw you. I watched you leave and come back, so I gotta listen to it. All right, try to leave and come back.
yeah, sometimes try to use the app too. The app might work better for you. Who knows? Whatever.
I'm gonna go through these messages in the chat. I think I'm almost caught up, and then we could jump right back into it. Um, so Logan says,
Well, while
"Oh,
you're looking for that,
you hear that?
go ahead.
Oh,
While
go ahead."
you're looking for that, I'm finna just when Aki Raheem said, sometimes they said you're not giving me time to think. I think that even starts to speak again volumes to what Chief have just put in there, of cognitive overload and understanding sometimes that you might be saying too much at this time.
Yeah.
And because of people's ego, they're not going to say that you're saying way too much. They're just going to say something like, you're not giving me time to think, right? And you don't need time to think if you're not processing what I'm saying. But if you're not processing and it's too much of what I'm saying, then now, okay, I'm gonna have to pull back. And let me give you and just like I think y'all saying that some people that deal on their screens, now one has ADHD or a wayward spirit, where the spirit is just moving from this direction to this direction and not anchored and centered. And making sure now, okay, I might have to give it to you in a way where I can be concise and succinct in what I'm saying. Because sometimes when we're explaining things, we go way around the mulberry bush and go way over here. And yeah, you're losing people because now you're not saying anything. What
Right.
land the plane? Like, what point are you trying to make? I don't need to
Right.
go over there because sometimes what some people will do is they'll try to talk themselves into an answer. And when you're talking yourselves into an answer, you're saying a whole bunch of nothing and then wondering why, oh, well, you can easily be dismissive and say, oh, this person's just not listening. No, you don't understand it well enough. So therefore, you're not communicating. So therefore, this person is checking out. Or on the flip side of that, like you said, when some people feel like a lot of scammers try to do that, where they try to use all of these different big words to be hitting you with the hypochondriac of this and this comes to it, and you miss those keys with this key, and then it comes, and you like, oh, this brother deep. Oh, this brother know his stuff. No. One of my favorite things was I used to watch some of the battle rap, and that one dude, he'd be like, slow it down, bring it back. I just dissed you, right? Slow this guy down. What are you saying? What does it? It's okay to ask somebody, what does that word mean? Like and they went, oh, and then here they go. Basically, they start stumbling and fumbling. Tell me what you just said. You just used this word. I wanted to make sure that we have a clear understanding. And it's sometimes the most basic concepts of when they say if you love, what do you mean by that? Because I'm not going to automatically assume that when you use the word and I'm using the word that we're talking about the same exact thing. So in order for me to get a clear understanding of where we're at, I'm going to ask you, what do you mean when you use that word love? Where are we at with that? Just so we're on the same page, so I know moving forward. Because sometimes the whole concept can be lost of a conversation because we're assuming that we're using the word and it means the same thing to both of us and each other.
Yeah. Another thing too with that is some people are trying to think of a comeback. They want you to stop hitting them with the truth so that they can refute what you're saying because it's not comfortable or it doesn't sit well with their current worldview. And it's like, wait, you're not giving me a chance to think. It's like, nah, you're not giving me a chance to combat what it is that you just told me that I can tell immediately is truer than what I've been holding in my mind for a long period of time. I don't know how to deal with that.
And I
And you
think
know,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think too that also shows like the beauty of being set apart and not having to deal with that because when you're talking to A likes, like let's say if me and Messman like get on a call and speak, we both give each other time to speak and we both give each other time to listen. And if we don't know, we don't know. Like Messman would tell me like straight up like, yeah, I don't know nothing about that. Hit up so and so. Or I'll say, yeah, I don't know. I'll go into it and I'll check it out. Or even like last night when some of the brothers got together, like if we don't know, we just don't know, right? And it creates for better dialogue because it gives you time to say, okay, you know, I gotta go and I can go dig into this, and then when we speak about it again, we can actually get into it, right? But when you're just assume all this surface level assuming, like, yeah, I assume you know this, so we're gonna get into it. And like in the church, I say like, you go to church and then it just starts preaching, and it's like you might not even know anything that's being said, but because it sounds good and it feels good, I'm a rock with it, right? But when you minus all the sounding good and feeling good, we both don't know anything that's being said here, right? So when I said like, the being separate or being set apart, it's like, especially at the retreat, when we were at the retreat, it was like you could stay up till late hours, like just not sleep because the conversations are just so fulfilling based off of, okay, I'm gonna listen to what you're saying and then I'm gonna put my sense into it, and then we're gonna try and build some actual bricks around what's being said, right? And if you don't know, then okay, I'm gonna sit back for this conversation. I'm gonna let y'all go into it, and then when I do know what's happening, I'm gonna jump back in,
Right.
right? And I think, and that's the humbleness of being able to say, no, okay, I'm gonna step out because I don't know where we're going right now, right? But I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna try to gather so that next retreat I can jump back in, right? And that's what it was made me thinking of, because even when it's in there, like if someone's shooting over someone's head, like I have no issue with telling Aki now, like, nah, you losing me. Like I don't know what you're saying right now. There's no issue with saying that. So I think when we're set apart and we have our space, right, to honestly do that, I feel like that's where it becomes the conversation actually becomes very fruitful, right? That's what it's making me think of when you were speaking, Akizak.
Yeah.
Based off of.
Yeah, the build on. Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
dude, go ahead.
You can hear me.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
we
can
could hear you, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot. Yeah, to build off like what Aki Zach was saying, like a lot of people are listening, but they're listening with their feelings instead of listening with their mind and their heart and their eyes and their and their ears. So that's a big part of listening. I think is as we communicate, us brothers, we talk and we listen with our head to try to have rational and logic thought behind it, while some people are more programmed to listen with their feelings. So then they react out of their feelings, and they don't see that it's their thought has been implanted in them to have that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking on a similar wavelength. I was gonna say how there's a nonverbal aspect to listening as well. Like you mentioned, with listening with your eyes. Um, so watching what the person is doing, watching how they move, how they handle situations that may be difficult. Um, yeah, so that I was thinking of that, like how listening also goes into that. And there was something else you mentioned I was gonna pick up on, but it slipped my mind, so I'll come back to it later.
Well, I think when to build off of that, nonverbal communication. So you can sometimes see when somebody is uncomfortable, even though they're trying to present themselves in a manner that I have everything under control. And this goes back to that segment. I think it's 6, where silence. You know, somebody they have an internal war going on.
Mm-hmm.
Of even though I'm not saying anything, inside is running 100 miles an hour of
Right.
me not processing what somebody is saying, but me listening to respond. Oh, here you go. I'm finna just give you this, or I'm gonna just say this, and you're like, I don't even know where that just came from. Can you? And it goes back to now quiet life. Is that the name of the segment? 2 Strongs ago, quiet life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and which was, man, I just love. So even when we start to look at that, it's a matter of now the certain things that we have learned. Has it been misinformation that we have learned that starts to guide one's life? So it even started talking about how if you read into one of the old DSM, there was started with a D. No, it's not that. But it was talking about how it was considered as an issue if a slave wanted to run away, then they were seen with a cognitive disability.
Tryptomania.
Damn, thank you kindly. And now if somebody says, I don't want to work, or if I'm not feeling my job, then obviously you must be depressed, or obviously now you must. But now it's like, am I trying to fit in? Now this goes into a different level of listening, as far as what culture are you listening from? Because this person may be expressing from a different culture, and you're rooted in a death culture that tells you, okay, here's the issue with somebody who's in slavery, and now you want to run. So there obviously must be a problem with you if you want to run, right? So now let's diagnose this issue. And it's like, no, there's a problem with what we're talking about is chattel slavery. Now, if somebody wants to stay in that, like, where we gonna go? Where can we go pick some cotton? Ain't no cotton for us to pick up there. Now we can start to diagnose that. But why are we diagnosing the person that sees? There's clearly something wrong. So I think as we start to consume, I don't like that word. As we start to learn, and get more rooted and grounded in one's own culture, then I think I would hope. Let me say that one will become a better listener as they're getting more deeply rooted and grounded in who and what they are.
All right. I will ask. I think this is the question that I tried to stick a pin in. For Usman Malik, like he had inspired the question. I think it's along the lines of, based on what you hear, right? We got men of different age groups. Based on what you hear um, from people in your age group, or maybe even younger, maybe older, what would you say that melanated men need at this point to bring them to a point of balance? Like what would you say is the thing that they're needing the most?
Purpose.
Oh, okay. I heard
Like,
purpose from
like
there.
I say that because, well, just from observing, but also being an uncle. I've been an uncle since the age of 6 years old, so I used to
I'm sorry. Our
Oh,
Usman, can you mute up? I think there might be an echo coming from your side.
okay, that's better. Okay, but yeah, I say that just from observing myself and the other men my age, but also with the younger generation. Like I've been an uncle since 6 years old, so um, I remember times being around my nephews, and I got older nephews, so at that time they were 17 and 18, and they were just like Akina was kind of describing one of his family members and how she was having a hard time sitting still. That's kind of what I noticed with my nephews as well. Like, and it would make it hard for like an older person, like an uncle, or a dad, or a grandfather, to give them advice or directions on stuff, because they just always gotta be moving. Like, they can't really take in the fullness of what you were saying because they're moving. So half their mind is doing this over here, half their mind is trying to comprehend what you're saying. So I say purpose.
I would say direction and authority. I think more black men, black youth they need an older man to speak to them as a black another melanated man to speak to them. I
Yeah.
think that's lacked, right? So we go through the world like go through the world soft without it. And I think if we had that, and I mean when I say also older melanated man, I mean a strong melanated man who's older, who could actually show you principle and how to move with authority properly. Um, and I think that will allow the purpose that Isaiah is talking about to come through because when you move outside of how you were made and fashioned to be by the Most High, nothing else will work, right? So I think if we could have older men who are moving as how we're meant to be moving and fashioned in the way of how the Most High had fashioned us, I think that would allow a lot of um, just how the women act, all the violence. I think that'll all dissipate a lot more if we had older men who act like that, more chiefs, I would say, to govern over these younger men. That'd be my thing.
All right, let me jump in there. So men, and you've learned this, Chief has said this millions of times, you're going to learn one of two ways: from trial and error, or from somebody who's further along the path. So it's a matter of now, is one putting themselves in a position where they have something of nutritional value in order to give to someone else. Not coming in and ultimately just showing up to these lives, or showing up to an orientation, or showing up to something to see what can I get, and I'm getting this and I'm getting that. No, I'm getting this in order to give. I have something to give. Even if I don't feel like I have something to give, then one would say, and I'm speaking to all those sissified Tweety birds who feel like I don't have anything to say, or I might say something wrong, but ultimately you will have something to say because people can learn from. Let people learn. People are going to learn from your mistakes. Are you willing to get up here and show that you do not have it all figured out, that you do not have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to trip so that therefore I know my brother will help pick me back up and set me on the right path. But instead of me being viewed as, I may not have all the answers or I may not be the smartest in the room, I'd rather just sit back and just be like, oh, yeah, shalom, brothers. And then go back to, or throw the phone down, or I'm going to move around. I was there. I swear I was there. No, you weren't there. Because if you were there, you would have showed up and you would have actually laid a brick down. But you're not laying any bricks down. You're just a chump who shouldn't even have access to vagina. That's how I really feel about it. But now if we're actually going to go somewhere and actually give something to see that we have a community where we can start to be built up, then you're gonna have to show up, and you're gonna have to say, this is where I'm at. This is my level of cognition. So that, and it ain't one just jumping on you and saying, "Oh no, that's dumb. You shouldn't." Okay, let's work with it so we can see how we can build each other up. Because a community is only going to be as strong as its weakest link. So if there's a weak link, then everybody's going to start to point to this one person. Oh, they all must be like that because I heard Aki Zach say something stupid. And so he's saying something stupid and consistently, and ain't nobody correcting it. Then obviously, then they must all be like that. So are you grabbing your own cojones and saying, you know what, I'm willing to be wrong in the moment. I'm willing to fall on my face in the moment, but I'm also willing to get back up and be present in the moment so I can be stronger, so that therefore I have something of nutritional value to give something to someone else, as opposed to me just trying to see how much I can consume and how much I can take, so that therefore when I go to work, I'm the smartest one around the cooler. Or I'm the smartest one in the circle when I go out and we leave from the club and I'm getting my doggone shrimp box and somebody says something. Nah, brother, you look at it like this. Nah, man. What are you actually handing over of nutritional value, and are you willing to put yourself on the line day in and day out in order for you to get better, so that the community get better, and that we can start to hand something back over?
What's that saying? You wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
You wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
I think what melanated men need is what we have here: communities with sane culture, because a lot of the issues that we face have answers within, a more sane cultural context. So even when we speak about, needing direction or needing purpose, and we talk about how you can't find character without a community. Like, you need that community to give you, okay, how do I fit in? What's my puzzle piece? What do I bring to the table? Without that community, can't really find that out. Like purpose, like, okay, somebody might think my purpose is to work a job for 30 years and then to retire and to, live off my pension or whatever. That might be somebody that might really, they may think that that's their purpose, but they receive that purpose from the dominant society. So it's like we talked about earlier, all of the answers being given already, you know, and all of these different reference points are within a person based on the society that they're within. So without the culture and without the community to hold, one accountable to that culture, I think that a lot of the problems that we face will persist. So I think that, a sane community with the same culture, is what most melanated men need. I would say all, honestly, because
Yeah.
we have to get back to who we were designed to be. Like we were most of us are living within cultures that are diametrically opposed to our natural cultures, or what our ancestors would have followed, or would have done. So it's like, if somebody says, "Man, I just want to go to the forest and I'm gonna just live out there and live off the land," people are gonna be looking at them like they're crazy. Like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? Like, you don't want to get a job? You don't want to work? What do you mean? You want to go to the forest? Like, if you look at why somebody might want to go to the forest, it might be because they just are really in tune with nature. They really love to. It's like we talk about the bush child. They really like to be out there, but they would be called crazy by another person's group. Whereas maybe within a different type of community with a different culture, it may not be looked at like that. Maybe say, okay, you want to go and live out there? Well, we have space for you within this community because we respect, a person that may want to spend most of their time outdoors and they want to spend most of the time in the forest. So I think that, sane culture, sane community is what we need.
So we got. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure we keeping the tally. So far we've got purpose, we've got direction and authority. We have men who are further along on the same path and opportunities to learn through trial and error. and we have sane culture, and spaces like this where you have brotherhood and spaces where you can build on your culture. Did I sum up all those points accurately?
I think to add on to there, we have to live it to give it, right? Like live authentically as we are to for because whether you want to see it or not, no matter what we do, there's always someone listening. So we have to actively talk into the listening of everyone who is listening. So if you're not living what you're saying and you're just talking a culture or talking like I'm going to go live in the forest and you're not actively pursuing it, then it's a disconnect from people. Like they just think you're a clown, right? Like entertainment, as the last podcast I heard. So you gotta live it and actively be in it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And then other like younger men don't have anything, don't see the integrity behind it. So that's I think that's one of the key things: integrity.
Yeah, just to build off that, I would say another aspect all melanated men and boys need is honesty. And I'm not talking about that soft honesty. I'm talking about like raw honesty, like not holding nothing back. And what that honesty does is it pushes you to a place where you're either gonna like what's being said about you, like, yeah, I did that. I went through that. It was tough, but I got through it. Or you're gonna get to a place where you're like, you know what? I don't like what was said about me. I don't like my reality. Now you're faced with a choice. What you gonna do to change it? So I would definitely say honesty. That's lacking in the society we're in. That where the majority of people are just so emotionally driven that through that emotion they manipulate everything. And you see that a lot when you ask somebody what the definition of a word and they're, oh, to me that word means, or that Bible scripture means, and it's like, no, that already has a set definition. You can't redefine it through your emotions. So honesty helps dissipate the imaginings that we make up in our own head.
So,
So
adding on to what uh, Aki Zach and Aki Isaiah said earlier, or Aki now, I'm sorry. I would think, and I hope I have the question correct, which is what melanated men melanated men needed most. When you were speaking, I don't know if it was my connection; it cut out. But I just want to make sure I have your question right. I don't want to ask you to repeat yourself because I don't want to go into the taboo space. But you're asking what melanated men need most in today's society, correct?
Based on listening to men and what men say, and even
Okay.
the body language and their actions and what they do.
Okay, got you. Yeah. So I would kind of concur with Aki now and Aki Zach, and it would be culture. And I say that just based on what we're discussing here today, but also I recall a few days ago we saw uh, a movie called The Banker, and it was I don't know if everybody knows what The Banker was about, but if you've seen the movie, then it'll be easier to follow what I'm saying. But in the end, the one of the main characters was asking in a court of law why the dominant society, or why they were so intent on keeping black men out of the American dream. And this was towards the end of the movie, and they had it, kind of like the music crescendo and everything. And I was thinking when that happened, I was like, that's a valid point. That was a valiant scene, an honorable scene. This is what I'm thinking when I saw it. So after the movie, we started discussing, what we felt were points that we could connect to in the movie in the screening. And Chiefs made mention that when he was in court asking why there was such a staunch effort to keep the black man out of the American dream, he was basically begging to be allowed access to a culture that's anti his culture, and that changed my thinking, because now I'm like, that's correct. He had no culture. His culture was clinging to the culture of the very people and the very culture created to keep him relegated to a particular space. So that's why I say now, as I listen to what was Chief was saying, the one of the correct answers, or one of the correct frame of minds, should have been, okay, if it's not even about being involved in your culture, I'm going to create or enrich my own culture. And that's a totally separate avenue of approaching what he was saying, or approaching what he was approaching his complaint. If they were using the money to, say, build a different community rather than to enrich the same community that they were in of a foreign culture, that would have been a different perspective, and that would have been more beneficial for them to create their own culture. So yeah, I say all that to say that I think that culture, without that, because that would influence your thinking too, how you perceive things, how you listen, even how you listen. What are you listening for? I was listening for um, not necessarily the fault in what he was doing, but I was just listening for, okay, he had a strong point. But the point was, he was begging to be involved in something that had nothing to do with him, and that was antithetical to who he was and what he was. And I didn't listen from that perspective. I listened from the wrong perspective, and therefore I got the wrong idea or impression from what he was saying. So again, I say all that to say that I think the culture, the proper culture, and the culture in alignment with who they are, or who we are as melanated men, that is something that we should be first and foremost involved in and concerned with.
I want to build on something that you want to read that, or are you just up on the screen? I don't know what's going on.
Nah, that's backstage. I have
All
no
right, cool.
control over what pops up on screen.
So I want to build on something that Aki Isaiah had brought up, which it made me think of a couple things. One, we were watching the movie Her. And when we were watching the movie Her, I remember saying that, how do you know that you're not, you're not AI, and that you have, and I'm like, where I was at with it was, oh, it's your history, and that tells you that you are not artificial intelligence, something along those lines. And then that's when I was corrected, and it's like, hold on, how can you say that when AI has a history? Right? And I'm not looking at it in that sense, but therefore now that's an opportunity that is offered. Grow. All right, here's where your logic, you thought it was, and then somebody's logic came in and said, "No, you ain't looking at this. Here's a different logic." Now I can look at that. Now these was old. I don't remember if y'all remember. You did these commercials on enlightenment and transformation, and one of them was he was giving the difference between critique and bashing. And now somebody can say, if they're hyper defensive or hyper emotional, then they can say, "Why are you bashing me in front of everybody?" With, as if there was no thought that was given to what it is that somebody is saying in the moment to offer you an opportunity to grow, as opposed to where that critique is, no, I'm gonna show you, this is where you're off. Your puzzle that you have that you're trying to fit in is off, and it's not going in correctly. I'm just going to make an adjustment here, so that therefore, that's what it looks like. And what better opportunity does one have than in their community to be corrected, so that therefore you don't go out into the world saying something stupid. So now all of a sudden that you really get hyper emotional and defensive. Well, you can't tell me nothing, or this is what it is. No, that's not what it is. But why wouldn't you now learn that inside of your community so that therefore when you step out and present yourself, oh no, now I'm on code in a sense that I'm grounded and I'm growing, as opposed to no, everybody just seems like they're coming against me, and now you're not listening. You're only coming from a space that I got to defend myself in here, and how I'm going to defend myself is I got to say something slick, or I got to crack a joke, or I got to get something to get, say something to get somebody off of me. So once you're off of me, then I can feel like I can skip back down the street, which now one has to look at themselves and say, am I really wanting to grow? If somebody keeps sitting here and showing up to these lives and not actually getting on the live, you have to ask yourself, do I really want to grow, or am I just here just to take? And I'm sidestepping so I can seem smart or I can sound smart, but I don't really want to be put in the fire so that therefore I'm offered an opportunity to be corrected, or that puzzle to be turned so that therefore now I'm moving right and exact. Or if I'm not putting in an application, or if I'm not like the steps that one could take in order to now level up, I'm refusing all of those, but I'm just going to be an online student. I'm gonna show up so that therefore I can sit and I'm like, yeah, that's deep. I can take that point, I can take this point, but therefore when it's time for me to actually give and say something, I can avoid somebody like saying, or like Aki Isaiah said, that honest truth, that somebody coming out to you saying, no, you're off. This is off. You're wrong. Is one willing to take that and then say, you know what, I accept that. Thank you. Because now it gives me an opportunity to present myself in a more peaceable and knowledgeable manner, as opposed to me just walking around thinking that I have something that I really don't have. So, yeah, thank you, Aki Isaiah.
One thing I wanted to add was Chief put something in the chat and it said he said I would say men are yearning and finding out for authentic helpmeets. I mean think of a couple friends that I have, some young men who have said to me multiple times like they're not worried about becoming a father or worried about just learning how to be a father, learning how to be a patriarch. They're just worried about getting money, right? And it stood out to me because of I think it was last study session where Chief had said that the trap that a lot of young men get into is women, right? And just being possessed by the box instead of trying to be productive. But the idea of like authentic helpmeets, um, because I'm allowed to be I'm previewed to a lot of the information that's in Anu. I don't see I don't see helpmeets as a detour to where I'm trying to be, but a lot of men don't have that. Especially young men, all they see on social media is just like this insane culture of women or insane culture of men too, and how men get women nowadays, right? And what they do to get women and how they maintain women compared to how we would say we court in our new and stuff like that, right? And just the idea of having a sane and authentic help me who actually helps you and doesn't distract you, who understands that this is us building, well, not us building, but you helping me build something, right? Not just, oh baby, come lie down with me, right? And I think that also for young men, I know because of like stuff I've heard from actual friends being important. Like some men I know, young men I know, are actually even scared. They won't say it, but they're scared to talk to women based off of the culture that's going on right now, and it being so based around having to have certain things, and it's not about, okay, I'm going to build myself up to have this thing, but I need to have it right now in order to get this woman, where instead of like with the idea of that help me, that's okay, I'm gonna do this thing and you're gonna help me do this thing so we can be in this position, right? And also to echo Abu Usman, and I was there for that video too as well, and I was that also stood out to me too as well. Like, what culture are we trying to buy into? Like, is the help me trying to help you push you more into Babylon, or is she trying to help you to go get outside of it and get into your own culture, your own Israelite or Hebrew or our new culture, right? I think that um also I agree, it stood out a lot to me too as well, because a lot of young men are, like I said, scared, um and they don't say it, but they are scared, and they don't know where to go, because they see a lot of older men having issues with women too as well, right? And them may having issues in their marriages, or may not even be married, may not even have a woman, right? And then the men who do have women are suckers. They're suckers, they're liars, or they're just not complete, right? So like Niall said, having a community where you can see women and men working together. You can see righteous union, and you can see people actually working together to actually make something happen. You can see a authentic help me. You could see an authentic patriarch making things happen outside of Babylon. Not just, we're trying to get this money, but, we're trying to acquire something for the next generations to come. And we're all working together to do this thing. So I think when she said that, that's what that made me think of. I think that is also a big thing. Because we could build alone as men. And she was often said, like, we don't need women. It's not a need, right? But if we do choose to be people who want to push this thing forward and have children, to bring it forward, you do need authentic helpmeet, right? But if you just want to live your own life, yeah, you can do it. But if depending on where you're trying to go, I think that is a big thing that young men need to be around too as well, in the space of authentic culture and righteous and sane culture.
Man, go ahead, Akio Kara. I see you coming off mute. Go ahead, big dog.
First off, Zach. First off, don't do me. Every time we got to go through this, man. Every time. I feel like, I'm the void filled for your emptiness because some people have left that used to battle you, and now you try to come for me. Okay. But don't do me. We can go like that, big dog. All right. I ain't scared. But man, I think what young men and men in general are striving for or yearning for is I would say sovereignty. I think that they want to be the masters of their own destiny. And that's hard to do in a dominant society that won't let you and ain't gonna let you because it's in the manual. You know what I'm talking about? And then because of Willie Lynchism, you may have blood relations that will hold you back from being that sovereign. You always have, guys always talking about king this and king that, but they're not really authentically acting out on that kingship or that sovereign, of managing and being and having proper husbandry and but with all of that, it seems like that's the yearning, but there's no action to it. You know what I'm talking about? And then that's also where the scams come in, where you got these guys that act like they so alpha or whatever, like they got it together and they just using these dudes these dudes for their money. You know what I'm talking about? Saying if you do this, you'll get this, or you'll get the woman that you want, or things like that. But you never really get the sovereignty or the mastery of manhood, man building, and warriorhood that you really want. All they say is lift weights, do this, do that. It's like a whole game plan. If you do ABC, then not everybody's like that. You know what I'm talking about? But I think that, the young yearn for that sovereignty because, they're lost. And they can't find it in what they see. You know what I'm talking about? But I also say they yearn for dang on toughness because as much time as she say how soft we are, which true, they yearn for toughness too. Everybody want to be, everybody want to be sovereign so they can be tough. You can't be in a dominant society that ain't gonna let you be tough and let you be that man that you are that y'all born you to be. They gonna keep you, little boy. That well, that's why they always called us boy. You know what I'm talking about? So for me, I would say my answer is sovereignty, man.
Yeah, man. Give thanks. Give thanks for all of the responses. And Aki Isaiah giving two. I see you. You got two on the list, two on the scoreboard. I see you, big dog. Uh, but I really do appreciate you all coming through for the build and building on listening, which I think is um, super important when it comes time for men to show and prove, because we have to source our information, and we have to source our guidance, and we have to source our direction from higher up on that hierarchy. Like Aki Sakwood has often quoted, men learn from two ways. You learn from trial and error, or men who are further along on that path. And you also learn from listening to the voice of your creator. And it's very difficult. That's very difficult sometimes for people to do. Um, in this day and age when there's so much chatter, there's so much noise, there's so much going on externally, and there's so much turmoil internally, it may be very difficult for the average person to sit, like Aki Niles' relative, to just sit for like half an hour with nothing but themselves, and being with themselves, not being by themselves. That might be very difficult. So in terms of listening to the voice of your creator, it's like it's First Samuel chapter 3, and Samuel is called by the Most High, and he thinks it's his teacher Eli, right? And after Eli tells him, like, nah, after you hear that, if you hear that voice again, just say, speak, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And he said it, and Yah said, all right, this is what's about to happen, and I'm about to make some changes around there, to the point where anyone who hears about it, their ears are gonna tingle. Okay. All right, big dog, I see you. And later on in that chapter, it speaks about um, Samuel growing, um, growing in the Lord, and not letting any of his words fall to the ground, right? But even his name, like Shemuel, like Yah hears, or the El, our El hears, right? Because we have Shem from Shema. Shema means to hear. And this is someone who is a response to a prayer from his mother, because she was barren, right? So even when it comes to listening, the importance of listening, and the importance of being able to tap into the voice of your creator, these are what all of the lessons that we're getting are equipping us to do. And the whole reason for the segment, or the inspiration for the segment, was something that Chief said last strong, in terms of all of that information, all that wisdom that Yah had around Adoma in the garden. And as soon as the woman came around, he was like, he went after her, and he abandoned all of that game, all of that wisdom. And it's up to us as men to really restore that relationship, where we're effectively taking in all of the lessons that Yah gives to us, and we disseminate it to our women, but we're not hearkening to the voice of our women, or we're not hearkening to the voice of the world that's telling us to do the opposite of what our Creator created us to do. Peace, Brother Andre.
Peace, chat. Man, look at this space. It's first time being up in here. It's lovely. Um, one thing I
Willfully
wanted
not the last.
to, of course not, of course
All
not.
right.
One thing I wanted to touch on that I heard earlier. When we were talking about listening with the eyes. One thing I can definitely say for myself is I'm a terrible liar because I speak with my body language first. That's, since that's what they call it, the body language. I give off like if I got something going on, you could already tell before I even speak. And I can notice that with other people as well, with like before I even engage conversations with them, because depending on how their body language is, that to me lets me know how the conversation may go. So using just being courteous as far as where one person is before, or even myself, before I actually go to speak verbally. I'm watching with my eyes and seeing what their body language is reading. One thing that I would touch on as far adding my brick in when it comes to what melanated boys or men need today, and it could tie in with a few things that's already been mentioned. I would say vocation, something that is super important, at least for me, I should say, because if the world was to end tonight or tomorrow, what do you have to throw in? What can you provide in the sense that can't be replaced by like a robot or something that essentially you can be replaced by. So I would say a sense of a strong vocation is definitely needed, and I'm sure it's a lack of in today's culture or society.
Okay, so when you say a vocation, Dondre, you're not just speaking about. Are you speaking about what you do for money?
No, not at all. Because I mean that can be part of it, but at the same time, it's like what do you have to give? Being efficient in an area that others may be lacking in. That you like we talked about earlier. You may be further along the path than others. So that could be anything really character building. You know what I mean? Anything that adds to the character to make one better, and that way that can trickle down to others around. So no, it doesn't necessarily have to be for money. It can be for a bigger purpose as far as community building.
Okay.
I would add in there too. I mean, these answers are already laid out for you, so just grab what's on the tree. Chief had already spoke about. He gave 3 examples of people that can come. 3 examples of you know what. One of those was if somebody said, I'm a film critic and I'm trying to join your community, and you might be in a rustic situation, but now we need to do what can we do with that? you judging films and being a critic and saying that this is what this is. However, if somebody like if I'm the film critic and Aki Rahim is the carpenter, who is going to be more valuable in this situation? He going. Now it's like I'm gonna have to lie my way into something of that nature. So it's a matter of just looking at what skills that you are deeming as valuable, either i.e. in this culture, but ultimately what will actually be transferable if you had to actually survive. If you had to actually make sure, okay, I got to get it out the mud. What am I going to do with this? And if you got to look and second guess it and saying this is not going to be valuable, you might want to start honing in on some skills that will make you valuable. It's no different than in sports. When people say, the more you can do, the more opportunities you have to be on the field. The more that you know, the more opportunities that you can say yes to, as opposed to, I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. But if you know something about it, then you putting yourself in a position where you're giving yourself at least an opportunity to accept different ways, different avenues, or different streams that you can start to bring in. But if you're shutting those down, or if you don't have it, or if you're not learning anything and not pushing yourselves to grow, well, then now Like my nephew says, that's what you get. That's what you get. Like you don't get what you deserve. You get what you get what you put in. If you ain't putting in, then don't think that you're gonna make a withdrawal when you made no deposits whatsoever. That's on you then. And you got to walk with that, and you got to own that, and don't try to come. And then that's when you try to hitch a ride to Master Menelek because he's been putting in the work. So now I'm gonna try and anchor myself onto yours so you can pull me down the street as well. And then somebody just kick you back down, like in who's my man when he wanted that gun, and he was on the slide. He was like, "Hold on, I didn't tell you what I wanted." And they put that boot right in his face. That was Miracle on 34th Street. No, that ain't the name of it. A Christmas Story.
The Christmas Story.
Yeah, he wanted the BB gun, and they was like, "Oh, I didn't get to tell you what I wanted." And then all of a sudden, that whole shoe just came right in his face and pushed him right down. Don't be surprised when a shoe comes in your face because you ain't been putting in the work. And all of a sudden, they push you right back down the slide, and you up here pouting, screaming, and kicking because now all of a sudden the arc door closed and you not in it. Then you own it and walk off and say, "You know what? I accept this sword that's about to come to my neck with honor and dignity because I worked for it. I earned it because I wanted to chill. I love to drink. I love to smoke. I love to do all the things that somebody told me, you know what, offer me an opportunity to go a different way. I didn't do it. So now, therefore, accept what you have coming to you."
I think that makes me when you think of being past the torch. I think I want to say some. I don't want to say all because I do think some young black men don't care if they're great, but I think some young black men or melanated men want to be great and they want the torch to be passed on to them, right? So I think having older men who can pass a torch, who have something to pass on to you, is definitely needed. Um, like you said, I was talking to someone about this actually today. This guy is a driver for a company, and he was saying to me, he was like, looking, he's like, what could that guy give to you? Like he just drives his car. That's it. Like he's gonna teach you how to drive a car. Is that what he's gonna pass you? Right? And if you see that as acceptable as a young person, then that's up to you. But you should have more ambition or want more out of yourself. Like you said, like how much can I know? Yeah, I can gain that. I can get that. You can give me that to learn how to drive, but what else am I gonna strive to gain? And even the passing of the torches, yeah, someone might be able to give you something, but it's up to you to take it and bring it further, right? If you're not bringing that thing further, then what are you doing? Are you just getting what's been, are you just receiving something and sitting and letting it marinate? Like, what are you gonna do with it? So if someone says, okay, no, I'm gonna give this information to you, you should be able to take that and say, okay, I'm gonna build off of that. You may only get a meter, or sorry, not a meter, a foot for you guys, a foot from where the person had given it to you, but at least it's moving, right? But if you're not moving it anywhere, not moving the stick or moving the standard higher, 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 then you're pretty much a waste because we're not supposed to sit here and stay stagnant. The point is to be an upward spiral, so we should be moving, right? So even though we could say like, someone got something, but after that person had got it, right, how am I taking this thing further? And if I'm not, I'm wasting time and I really shouldn't be in certain spaces, right? And that's what it made me think of, like, even when we're talking about sports, your coach might have played that sport, played ball, but he took his talent and now he's trying to give it to you. You should take that talent and take it further. You don't stop where your coach gets. If your coach played just in JUCO, you play in university, right? You have to take the thing further. And if you're not, you shouldn't be around. You should really be in the back, like you said in the sports. That's the guy that sits at the back of the bench because he's not taking any of the lessons and actually expanding on it. The person who's in the gym working on I don't know, his vertical and getting it higher and higher and higher, he might get certain more playing time than you do. Right? The person who's doing more studying, the person who's actually going out and saying, you know what, I'm gonna learn this craft, I'm gonna learn this art. Right? When it's time for them to speak, you will see it in the work. And I think J. Cole used that in one of his songs. Michael Jordan was saying something like, "Is when it like you do the work, and when time comes, you will see who has done the work, and it'll be very evident compared to people who haven't done it, right? And that person will be able to get the torch and be able to bring it somewhere else afterwards. But when you're speaking, that's what made me think of.
Okay, so based on what you were saying, Aki Rahim, in terms of what Chief has put out there and what Chief has taught us and the level that Chief is currently at, and especially since he's made it clear from the beginning, his goal is to make himself obsolete. Where does that leave us who are learning from him? You
I
know,
think
at what point do we strive to go beyond him?
I think the going beyond would be taking a particular practice or particular principle that he has taught and making it active and visual in the day-to-day life where someone can come and see you doing that thing. So if he says like the survival thing, are you so in depth in survival that you could actually have a space where you're doing that and you're providing that? Or are you, if he's speaking about food, are you so in depth into food where you have a space where you could provide that, right? Because if he's given us the knowledge to it, then it's time for us to bring the wisdom, right? So we should be doing these things where we someone can come and see it, right? It takes it outside of, okay, you know what, we're coming on YouTube and we see Chief speaking, right? Or we're reading his book, right? Or listening to his audio book, right? And we're just hearing all this great information, but how can Chief say, you know what, um this student over here has a space in this town where you can come and check it out, or on this land that we got, I got a brother over here that's showing this that you can go in and go check out, not oh, check out his Instagram or shoot him a call. It's like you can go in person and see this person, right? And creating pillars, if not around, like globally, or even if it's locally, but creating pillars that people can actually come in and sit down with and speak to. Because he said, Archie says before, like he had people who he could go and sit with, and that helped him get somewhere, right? So I could imagine, and I know for me, every time I go on a retreat and I could sit in front of someone who could show me something face to face, I grasp it way more. And on top of that, I actually want to go back and do that thing, right? So I would say for us, it would be doing what has been taught already, right? Because the thing is, Chief has already done these things, but he can't be doing 110 things at a time, right? But if he has five people who can at least pick up two of the things that he's taught and apply those and do those on a basis where someone can come in and see it being done, I think that would be powerful in itself for young men, especially young men who want to do something, but there's just nowhere to do it. Um, So yeah, that's what I would say. Having a space or somewhere where someone could just come in and see, let me see you do this. Let me do it with you. Can you show me how to? Can you apprentice me? Can you show me how to do this thing so I could be great at it too, and I can pass this down, right? So that's what I would say.
All right, cool. So now we know what to hold you to.
Right.
You know, I was asking because I was thinking about this the other day in terms of, and maybe this is a conversation we could continue within our internal men's groups, but in terms of standards that we hold ourselves to, like for example, we have the required qualities that we hold each other to. We have the 14 keys that we should all know by now. Um, Even in terms of like movement, though, like we spoke about this, we've been building on it for a good while in terms of just daily movement. Um, but even like things like that, what's the standard that we set, or what's the minimum that we set? So when brothers come in, they know like you should be able to do this at minimum every day as your movements, or you should be able to um, recite your mathematics. You should be able to break down your Hebrew. In terms of all these things that Chief has been given to us, and this is still on the vein of all of the trees that are in the garden that we've been introduced to. Are we partaking of them, or are we looking at the shiny ones that we're not supposed to eat, that we're told not to eat? Because someone in a sundress told us we should eat it. You know, which ones are we looking at? Are we looking at the ones that help us to expand and help us to provide all of the things that we say are needed? You know, because all of these things are things that we should be able to provide at this point. And looking at it now, or having this as a reference point, we can always come back and say, these are the things that we've seen that men need, and these are the things that we can build on, which is one of the beautiful things about having a space like this.
I think what you said even goes back to that idea of um, like pick up. I think Chief said pick up your bed and walk. It's like you have to. The information has been given. Like you know how many shows that we've gotten, hundreds, hundreds and hundreds of shows and all of these podcasts and lectures and things of that nature, where probably 90% of the things that we want answered, we could probably find in one of them or some of them. So, and then maybe certain things that we're facing issues, you know, could have been prevented if we actually had applied certain things that we've listened to or read. So I think that a lot of what we, you know, the charge that's on us is to, like Aki Rahim was saying, you know, apply the information and to really live it out. And like you said, Master Miller, like it starts with those foundational things, like how much of the Anu way have we truly applied that's active and living in our lives right now? You know, do we know the 14 keys? Could we break down the 14 keys to somebody if somebody asked us? You know, it's these foundational things, like we always talk about foundations needing to be strong in order to build anything on top of it. So we get into talks around like polygyny and, you know, being a king or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, we all about that, but what about them 14 keys though? Like, can you tell me what that is? Like, if you can't, then I already know, like, you're not really doing what you need to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think a big part of it is, of course, establishing that foundation, but not just knowing it, like I can say it, but is it living in you? Like in practice, like is it coming out through your actions and through how you're even dealing with other people in the community? Because I can clearly see if somebody is making their brothers or sisters problems their problems. Like if somebody, like we had a situation within with some of the brothers where, you know, someone brought up something and somebody else was like, hold on, wait, how are you doing though? Because how you're speaking is kind of making it seem like this isn't really about the subject, but it's more so about how you're dealing with things in your personal life. So like, talk to us, you know, what's going on? And that showed me right there, okay, you're really living that principle out right now. You're showing me. So it's not just, you know, just talk. So I think that a big part of it is, of course, getting those foundations down, but also integrating them to the point where it's just a part of how you are, just a part of how you live in.
Yeah, because it's very difficult to, like, you ain't running no kingdom without no laws. Like you ain't doing it. It's just not gonna happen. You know. So I don't know if anyone wanted to, because we going on 3 hours. So if we could go around and like if anyone wanted to say anything in closing, before we close out, feel free to unmute.
Yeah, I just
I
wanted to
thought
say, this definitely reminds me deliverance that Chief had did. Essentially, you know, the over well, one of the messages that I got from is, you know, if you ain't, I'm not cutting for you. Essentially, you know, he was to you know, living right.
I'm sorry,
I'm saying living.
you choppy, brother. I don't know if it's just me, but I heard the word essentially 3 times, but that's the only word I heard. So I don't know if it's just your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I think I got Wi-Fi. You got Wi-Fi ain't
Yeah,
top
I
tier.
think my Wi-Fi is contagious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that essentially doesn't mean
but I
basically,
was
does it?
It's sort of like basically.
I got it. I want to make sure I'm hearing them correctly.
well, let's get that out of there. Out of there.
Okay.
One the deliverance check that spoke to a lot before, if you're not cutting for me, cutting for you, and that's speaking to the laws of the most. And he also the Jeremiah 48:10, verse word for word, but it's like curse be who or the laws of who deceitfully, and then I'm gonna have to memorize that one, but
Yeah, the chat is saying you're chopping up
because
too.
you can't.
Hey, you whether you memorize it or not right now, the way your Wi-Fi works, you can say anything. We can agree with it. Understand anything that you're saying.
No, anything doesn't go.
See what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
right, brother.
Is it still choppy?
That's absolutely true, brother. You got it.
Am
You
I
want to put
still
it in the chat?
choppy?
Yeah.
I'll do
You
that.
say something else?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. I say put it in the chat.
I just want to one last thing, a little shameless plug. Me and some of the brothers will be opening up a Discord next Tuesday, called a Soulful Blood. It'll be about restoring to our roots as melanated men and getting back to a soulful meaning warrior, our warrior blood, right? So I hope one of my brothers can put it in the chat real quick for everybody to get it. And we'll be starting that on Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. It's called a Soulful Blood. Um, if you're between the ages of 18 and 29, please come through. Um, yeah, so I hope some of y'all can come through and build with us on those topics around our warrior blood and our original roots. So yeah, that's all I want to say.
What
Okay.
about
You
those
can
of
put
us who
that
are
in there.
31?
Those of y'all who are 31, get with a new man. Sign up right now. Get with them. Get with a new man. They need some help. I'm joking, but they get in with them and tap in
Shots
with my
fired.
brothers.
Shots
All
fired.
right, cool. I appreciate that, man.
Just send the link out, Aki, right here. We can put it in the description under this video.
Okay.
Yeah, because y'all need some help too, apparently.
We all need a little bit of help, brother.
Yeah. Who we here
So
for?
I'm gonna say this because I think it's important. When I first joined Anu, one of the things that you hear Chief say, "When in doubt, copy your teacher." I took that to heart. Okay. Like a bunch of the videos that I was doing, I was just doing it from the videos that Chief had already done. One, I'm making sure I'm in alignment, but two, it was actually helping me learn, like the information. Like he says numerous times, if you can't teach it, then you don't know it. So now it's a matter of do you understand what you're listening to? And now I'm like, I'm gonna stay right here just to make sure. Boom, okay, we're here. And then I had consultations with him every month, making sure, okay, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to get better at? Even coming from I've never heard of being practicing plurality. How do you do that the right way? How do I start looking at this? Okay, I said this to her, and then I was just getting shot out. Bam, bam. Like I was throwing up. I had, heck, there was situations where the girl would stand up and she'd be like, you're not talking enough. And I talk to my friends more than I talk to you. Gathered her stuff and walked smooth out that door. It's just a matter of, are you going to stand on principles? Are you going to stand on business? And are you going to do what's required of you to grow? Or are you going to keep trying to slip out and make excuses for yourself in order to try to hold on to things that ultimately shouldn't be in your life anyway? So that is what helped me out tremendously, leaps and bounds, though, is being able to look at somebody further along the path. And then now I'm going to go actually implement and do. And then let me tell you how much I screwed this up. Oh, okay, move this puzzle piece a little bit. Oh, this is where you screwed up. Are you doing too much explaining? That's your problem. Oh, okay, now let's go back out there and do it again. And then I'm gonna come back and then we'll reconvene and then we'll see how I need to grow from there. So either jump in, man, get on the train, start running, start teaching, start doing what you're called to do, and then come back and then say, okay, this is what I had some issues with. This is where I had some mistakes with. And a brother can jump in and help you out, saying, oh, this is how you're messing this up. Ah, got it. All right, put me back in the game, coach, and let me go do what I need to do. And don't get so caught up in trying to look at what everybody else is doing, man. If somebody is, everybody can't be Chief, okay? Even though I know Chief, he's saying like, yo, he making himself obsolete. Chief way out there. He way out there, okay? So I understand. Like, oh yeah, I'm. You may not be the next Chief, but you may be the person who's supposed to wrap ankles. Are you going to take that and be the best of whatever your position is? Are you going to be the best that you can be? Can you do it? Leave it all on the field, wherever it is that you're supposed to be called to do, whether you're supposed to give water or whether you're supposed to be the one to make sure that you're mixing the drinks, whatever it is, are you going to be a warrior at that, or are you going to start pouting because you want somebody else's position and you now leaving your stand? Hold whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, hold it down. But again, the only way that we figure out what you're supposed to be doing is if you jump in and start doing it. Then you'll start to figure out, okay, this is where my position is in here, and this is what I'm going to hold down.
Yeah, as you could hear in Aki's testimony just now, listening also includes being obedient. When he asked, like, what should I do? The Chief would tell him what to do. He would do it. Or if he says, this is what I told him, it's like, you shouldn't have told her that. It's like, all right, I'll take them on the chin. It's not always just, and I'm saying this for those who sit in the chat and are like, oh, I'm just listening, or I'm an online student, or I was just watching the segment. But you're not jumping in, you're not in the chat, you're not applying. You will keep getting left further and further behind if you just keep listening, and you don't start applying and you don't start getting closer to the source of this information, which Chief is always pointing us to the source, and he's continuously pointing us to the source. But you're going to get stuck looking at the finger if you're watching from a distance. You're not going to look at where he's pointing. You're going to, exactly, you miss all that heavenly glory.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you miss all the heavenly glory.
Exactly. So stop leaning just on Chief. He's given us all this information so we can do our own work. And it's not fair to one person to keep leaning on him. It's very similar to, it's the same case in point with the segment he did on the life force. You keep trying to stick your straw in the middle of his cup. And he, like, a lot of this stuff, like Zaka said, he's way out there. A lot of the stuff that's spilling over into that saucer is good stuff. And they're excellent stuff you never heard of before. I never heard of Drapomania. Never. I said it wrong earlier. I said Drapomania. But just hop on it. You do it scared, like you would say. When you start, you will stumble a little bit. You might be like a baby bear. Who cares? You in. You walk it. You know what I mean? So I'll just say that in terms of the listening piece, or the I'm just listening, or I'm on the sidelines, listening also requires obedience or hearkening, as it would be translated. So hearken unto the call. If you want to sign up, just sign up, and you'll get guidance through the process. You're not coming in alone. It's not like if you apply for a job, you walk in and you don't know what's going on, and everybody's just continuing to do their job. People will assist you, but you're gonna have to want to stand up. You're gonna have to take up your bed and walk. Yeah. Anyone else wanted to add on before we close out? All right, brothers. Give thanks I am going to read what Dondre and his Wi-Fi were speaking about before had to clock out. He's spoken about Jeremiah 48 and 10, and this was from the segment on deliverance that Chief Yuya did. Cursed be he that does the work of Yahuwah deceitfully, and cursed be he that keepeth his sword from blood. Okay, I think that's a good note to close out on in terms of having a panel for the men. All right, so peace, everyone. Shabbat shalom. Enjoy your evening.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.